Here we go now. 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 Here we go now.
Hello and welcome to PUBG Mobile Club Open 2021 Fall Split. An amazing turn of events is what it has been. This is day number 2 that you guys are joining us, and it is a huge big thanks to, of course, our official media partner, that is going to be Nemo TV. I'm going to be your host, caster, analyst, blogger. Joining me, of course, is going to be none other than Ankit to take us through the journey. And again, like I said, this is day number 2 that we're going to be chiming in along. And dude, it was a bonker start yesterday. Would you agree?
Definitely, I mean, I completely agree with what you just said as we head towards the day 2 of these wildcard regions. And today it's going to be a day where Group C and D is going to be head-to-head for the 4 matches. All the Erangels and the Miramars will be played. Not all the Miramars, Sanhok, it's just the 1-1 for each, but obviously the 2 Erangels. But what a start, as you perfectly mentioned. But some teams that I expected that have performed in the past, that have experience on their collar, did really falter down. I'm talking about KTM Rage, especially from their side. But what a start it was for the rest of the team. Talk about Paradox. It was back-to-back chicken for themselves. And I guess same sort of start will be heading towards when we get to see Group C and D. But there's also a lot of promising talents, as there are pretty much new teams in this wildcard region from Group C and D. But I'll be having my eyes set on Reaper X, because this is a team that has actually a lot of experience. And since they have played in the past, and I'll be really like to see, and I don't want them to perform in the same way that actually KTM Rage played, taking into consideration that yes, KTM Rage did have that experience, but still did falter down. And that's what these all tournaments is about. I mean, how hard you try, it is going to be every time that you are going to be thrown towards a curveball. And the teams that are analyzing the statistics of the big sample size that these experienced teams carry.
Most certainly, that is going to be so very true indeed. And as we move on along, of course, this is the moment where we talk about the tournament itself and what is on stake and how the things are being progressed on along. As Ankit did just mention, we did see Group A and B yesterday, but today it is going to be Group C and D, and we are going to be introduced to them for the first time itself. And in doing so, we will be getting acclimated to all the 4 groups that are going to be part of the semi-finals. But eventually, when it comes to the semi-finals, we are looking at 32 teams that have been divided into these 4 groups. But as the journey progresses on along, only 16 teams are going to be part of that final. So each and every team need to play their best and need to play their cards right with every single game and opportunity that they get, because after all, these opportunities are not going to be coming back again for them. Along with that, when you move on along with the conversation itself, the prize pool is the other thing that takes in the factor, a big factor, because $29,200 is on the line. But a big chunk of all of this is most certainly going to be working towards, well, right there it clearly says, the first place. The one team that will be on the top of that leaderboard will be moving on to the PMPL Season 4, and that slot is only for the one that moves on to the first place in the overall finals itself. And that's not going to be an easy task, as they have to get through, of course, first the semi-finals itself, and then as they move on along into the finals, they will still have to maintain that lead.
Exactly, and what and how are they structuring and how are they cementing their position? This is the point structure that we are familiar with for the last 1.5 year, more than that. First team gets the 15 total points, second 12, and keeps decreasing till we get towards the 8 and 12, where the team just get 1 for the placement point, and 13 to 16 gets none, as we have been saying so in the past. Only 1 kill point is awarded to 1 kill. I mean, that kill gets converted into point, as we just talk about that. So some teams really do rely upon the placement points. Some teams really do rely upon just the kill points. But one team that do try to counter manage and balance both the equation, it's the one that really finds there on the top.
Absolutely, and as we move on along into the introduction of these teams itself, we will start off from Group C, indeed, where we've got, of course, Reaper X, Veterans of Death, Team JusticeZ, RF officials, and as the journey continues on to the next 4 teams from Group C, we are of course going to be introduced to Fury X, NEPALZ, Face of Death, the Gurkhali Titans, Nepal Esports. Now, a few of these teams we certainly have seen earlier as well, and they have been absolutely phenomenal to witness in terms of their gameplay. But will this lobby allow them to do so again, is what the conversation leads down towards. And as we continue on towards Group D, we are going to be introduced to Entity Nepal, NPC, SCL Envias, Vengeance Esports. Along with that, of course, the final 4 remaining teams that we'll be introduced to are the Third Eye, Team Godfather, the Legend Esports, the Fear 10. So these are the 16 teams that we will be seeing on our screens today. And in that, of course, these are the matches, these are the maps that they will be playing on against each other. Erangel, Miramar, Sanhok, and finally back onto Erangel. So as the day starts off, of course, the journey will move on to Erangel itself, where these teams are going to be introduced to each other and their gameplay and their play style for the first time on Erangel.
Exactly. C&D, Erangel's day starts off with, and then it is going to be the Miramar, Sanhok, and Erangel. So the void is filled with these two off maps. But as you just pronounced all these names, really some fascinating name to talk about. Just see the Grukhali Titans, the Clash of the Titans, the Godfathers, the Legend Esports, Fear 10, some really good names, some really good teams, and let's see if they live up to the name, if they live up to the expectation of their fans and also the players. But yep, I'm really hopeful to that.
Most certainly, and as we bring the conversation down towards our day 2 itself, let's have a recap of what happened yesterday with the overall rankings from Group A and B that played yesterday. So, of course, they played their first 4 games, and in doing so, Paradox OCE found themselves on top of the ladder with, of course, those 2 chicken dinners, the back-to-back chicken dinners, with 78 points and 38 kills amongst that. So, incredible turn of events for the side of Paradox OCE, and today we shall have to see from Group C and D what team is going to be up to the caliber to take on Paradox OCE.
It's going to be a tough challenge since Paradox getting that 78 total points in 2 matches. It is close to 20 points per match. I mean, if you consider 78 as 80, that is not the case, but certainly it is not going to be an easy task for C&D since the target is set. They really can eye upon the target, but the target is far-fetched. But as we move down, it is going to be PUBG Minion Esports with 52 points. So there is a big drop in the points table system that we get to see of a total 26 points between Paradox and PUBG Minion Esports. And trust me, in just the 4 matches, I mean 26 point difference is pretty much, because that can be covered, but it needs to take at least 2 matches, because the way the players are playing, the way the players are actually strategizing. I mean, we have gotten to a lot of things to see actually in the yesterday's gameplay. And moving on to the second half of the chart, it is going to be Team Ronak. So now Team Ronak started the day things off pretty well, and that's where you get to see 1 chicken. It's the only team in the second half of the chart from 9 to 16. We're still getting 1 chicken, still on the 9th position. That shows the how consistency, what sort of consistent gameplay you need to actually have on your card, have on your title as a team in order to get there on the top. If you don't, you will be facing the backlash as same the team Ronak is facing, but I'm hopeful that everyone will be prepared for now, as Group C and D will be in a moment or so, will be getting on that big bird, and then we'll get to see the gameplay evolve.
Absolutely, mate, because again, I mean, you talk about the point structure itself, right? From the first position holder, that of course is Paradox with 78 points, down towards the 8th position holder, that is with 25 points. So the first page has a lot of difference in terms of the points itself, and as we move on along to the second page of the leaderboard, where we saw, of course, the 9th position holder with, of course, that 1 chicken dinner, that's going to be Team Ronak with 24 points, and on the other tangent towards the 16th position, only 4 points. So there is a big difference that can be created on the second page itself, but it is doable. But nevertheless, these teams are not going to be playing today. We're going to be introduced with Group C and D, and with that, let's jump in right into the first game itself, where we will be, of course, introduced to these teams and their plays. It is going to be on Erangel.
Exactly, the flight path on its way as military base gets cut half in 2 equal part, and the flight path ends towards the area of Stalwar. Eastern dominated flight path, I would say, as it is no way where the teams can actually go towards the area of Georgiapol, where the teams love to do so, because at least 1 to 2 teams go to that side, some on the crate, some on that northern city, some on the western side. But for now, it is going to be a tough challenge for all of these, as slowly and steadily we are getting to see teams jumping off into the same vicinity. It is going to be Team Third Eye, the Third Eye, that has really made an early jump onto the military base island, and it seems that they will be having a stronghold onto that. Along with that, it is going to be 1 more team, and it seems that it is going to be a tough challenge for all of these. Talk about Team Fear 10, it is also the one that is maybe jumping towards the area of Ferry Pier as soon as possible. We'll get to see how the teams are actually jumping off, but talking about this flight path, I mean, just imagine if the circle goes towards the western side completely. I mean, we have seen a lot of circles in the past, western side. This time again it goes towards that side. I mean, the team that will be jumping towards the area of Lipovka, they will be having a lot of trouble in traversing and making an entry into zone, but till now we are still heading towards with the team, and slowly and steadily Pachinki is the place where FOD, Face of Death, is moving towards, and it is really the heartland of this game. But there we go. The flight path, I guess, the deja vu moment for us, because we have seen the same sort of flight path in yesterday's game too.
Most certainly, that is going to be the case. And indeed, when it comes down to the circle itself, the first time around, it is going to be drawn across the military base as well. So it could very well be a factor where we shall see the military base being the zone that will be cut off. But eventually, we will move on towards that location when it comes down to the rotations from the circle and the zone itself. For now, we are, of course, going to be looking at the teams who are going to be getting into some early contestation. Not an easy task, but eventually, when it comes down to the gameplay, that is what is expected. After all, it is going to be these teams playing against each other for the first time itself. We are looking at Team Justice right there along with the Fury X NEPALZ, and they are absolutely trying to dominate each other. And the contestation is, of course, based on the drop location itself, where Fury X NEPALZ Ego has been able to spot a few players from the other tangent. But will that be enough to bring in some kills, some early kills, some first blood that could be drawn? From the looks of it, that will not be allowed, because it is going to be JS who are going to be blind spotting the team of Ego, and they will be moving away from that first early fight that could have been expected.
Exactly, but Fear on the other hand side from different team has brought the early knock, and there we go. His coral spray has been peppered down onto the players, and an early finish, and first blood gets into the Fear nil name, and there we go. The match has already started off with a lot of excitement. Irrespective of yesterday's gameplay, we have gotten to see, I mean, yesterday's also we got to see those early contestation, if you remember, in the area of Severny. This time it is going to be the 6 houses near that shoreline areas, and this is a team, the Fear 10. I mean, they have already made a statement, and they are trying to pincer the domination and just trying to cement their way as they are moving slowly and steadily, with Neil getting 1 kill with the DP in the early stage of the game. They don't have the best of the best loot, because the lad doesn't even have a vest or a helmet, but still the fear that he is living up to his name. He's just not fearing away, rather trying to inhibit and inculcate fear into the opponent's mind. But for now, it is going to be the Legend Esports. The Legends are in the Jasnaya Poliana, where they have been accompanied with some uninvited enemies, and there are some neighbors. It is going to be 1,000 meter, which they need to travel, but for now, it is going to be an easy task for them, as we got to see Jasnaya Poliana is quite a big city.
Most certainly is the case, and eventually, again, when it comes down to early contestations, this seems like likely to be a cause for a certain moment where indeed we can very well expect a little bit of a contestation and a fight that maybe will break between these two teams, the Legends Esports and the team that is going to be very close to their proximity. But eventually, for now, that is going to be, well, it's a slow start. It's a slow start for them teams. Of course, it's 1,000 meters away. For now, they're only focusing on getting that loot segregated for themselves. But as the journey progresses on along, as the game progresses on along, it is only a matter of time before these two teams go against each other, because they are so very close. But eventually, for now, we are looking at, of course, Tempe, and he is the one who is just completely oblivious to the fact, apparently, that there is another team right there, because he is just completely crossing those streets without any smoke, without no utility being utilized, and his teammate is right there with the vehicle as well. So now it is time where Panda and Tampe are going to be moving on across to get that rotation working for themselves.
Exactly, slowly and steadily they are moving, but for a moment, I mean, my heart was in my mouth as they were crossing the road without the use of utilities. Had there been one player spotted, things could have really turned ugly for them. But for now, it was Gurkhali Titans that has accompanied them. But for now, it is going to be obviously, the Legend Esports that have left the Jasnaya Poliana city in the early stage of the game. So one team has shown the urgency in order to make a rotation, and they need to actually, because the circle has completely gone in the southern side. And just because of that, we are getting to see, again, the team of Fear 10 into the fight as we are moving towards the downtown side. It is going to be the third eye with that X Factor bringing in, and there we go, 1 knock on headers, and we are still waiting to get so. And since this fight has actually erupted, there are also other fight we can get to see in the kill feed, as he has now started dancing with the Trap Star coming close to the players, not knowing the fact that it is pretty much close towards the player. He is looking to finish off the player that he actually knocked off, and headers, it is going to be not going to be an easy task for him. But on the other hand side, it is going to be Fury X NEPALZ that have just finished one player from the sides of FN, and things have now started turning ugly. I mean, irrespective and apart from the last game yesterday, since the curveball, since the X Factor that the zone itself has brought in, I mean, it was odd to expect.
It certainly was. There's no two ways about it. And that is something that, of course, is going to be the way that this first game of PMCO in between Group C and D is going to be introduced. And that is where a lot of contestations are being taken on right here. We do have Buste on our screens with his DP. He's trying to just absolutely bring down the players of Fear. And Fear 10 have none the wise. They are going to try and retaliate. They will be able to bring down Buste. But eventually, of course, his teammates are going to be there to give him that revival. On the other tangent, when you talk about the receiving end, it is the team of Fear 10. And this team has gotten that one knock on Hades, but thankfully the kill has not been confirmed, so they still do have all 4 players alive. But as you can clearly see, the damage has been dealt, and in terms of Fear 10's positioning, well, all of that is out in the open. Even though they have got the comfort of the compound, the third eye absolutely to perfection, literally based on the name that they've got, are playing it just the way it's supposed to, because they've got absolutely all the information to be able to take on that fight. But on the other tangent, when you bring that conversation down towards another fight, that is going to be between, of course, Fury X NEPALZ. They are taking a long-range fight right now, and it is going to be none other than the Legend Esports that they were trying to actually dish out damage towards, but sadly will not be able to get a kill for themselves. So an interesting start. I mean, just 7.5 minutes in, and it is looking like these teams are going to be revolting and aggressively making a stance when it comes down to those drop locations and contestations, and that is exactly what the viewers as well as us are here for, to look on to those... Wait, is this cheating? I mean, yes, there is third party, but there is also the third.
What is this?
Perspective that is allowed, but
I mean,
that small little...
ball just got completely vanquished.
Absolutely, it almost seemed like he was walking through the wall, or he's seeing through the wall, but of course that's not the case. That's just the way that it was showcased to us. But nevertheless, of course, he's not cheating. I was just making a joke of it. But moving the conversation along, the Fear 10 team is most certainly fearless as they try and take on that fight, and are going to try and push this push coming in from the side of apparently the Legend Esports. Well, the Legend Esports actually are going to be playing it absolutely to perfection.
Whoa.
And on the other tangent, what a beautiful play being showcased from the side of the Gurkhali Titans. Just hope that he does not go into the Hudson with... Exactly, I mean, that's exactly what I was pointing out, that hopefully that's not his plan, but as you can clearly see that it is a little damage, sadly.
Wow. The complete screen is just covered by this. I mean, this is looking pretty phenomenal as we are getting to see Glider being glided. And no, crash landing into water. There we go. Okay, so into the water. Now it is going to be the submarine or what?
Wait, why was that even made? What sort of a rotation was that? I'm not entirely sure.
I mean, just like because I guess the glider got a lot of damage. Smoke was actually coming out. Maybe he, I mean, just to not get the fall damage from exiting it, rather try to just dip into the water. But Veterans of Death, Gara, as you just look so astounded, has brought one player from the sides of TGT. The Gurkhali Titans player are completely in the pin position. Choco is the one that is onto the water hand side, and he is already, I mean, surviving on this sliver of an HP. He needs to actually heal himself up, but does he have a small piece of land where he can actually get his feet position, and then he can actually use the bandage and the first aid and all the medics that he has? But for the moment, this is one thing for sure, that the Gurkhali Titans are not in a good spot, because one player already was in the water, one is just surviving on 7 bandages, the helmet and the vest are just completely torn apart with 15%, and Ace has completely gone to different directions. The players are in a split situation. This split has actually not been created intentionally, rather being pushed to do so. But for the moment, Gurkhali Titans are just surviving on the mercy of the team that is standing on their head. But for the moment, let's see what do we have in the first airdrop. There we go, MK14, the Marksman 14, marking it entry in the first game of Erangel. I mean, a beast it is. You use it in a single tap, you use it with an extended clip of AR, and it works really damn well. But for the moment, it is Gurkhali Titan that doesn't want to give any sort of sound cues against the players of Veterans of Death, as Veterans of Death are making a graveyard, a deathbed for Gurkhali Titans. But surely, once they find a way from these situations, they might be trying to retaliate, as till now Veterans of Death haven't got any sort of success in these sort of map. But I would really want to see, I mean, a complete map. If the observers are listening to us, really want to see where the map has actually panned out, and then we get to see how the fights might actually erupt.
Well, for now it is going to be fights erupting all across the board indeed, where we do have Reaper X trying to take on the players, and it is going to be not the cause for the side of the Erangel, because indeed Reaper X was able to bring down that one player, but eventually Face of Death were able to pulverize the opponent as well. In doing so, Reaper X have gotten the point for themselves and absolutely obliterated Face of Death back into the lobby itself, with that being the first team to be sent back into the lobby. Face of Death is long gone. We've left with 15 teams remaining, but the journey is not yet done. When it comes to Reaper X, well, they have almost 1,300 meters to cover, and with that, Ankit, it is the observers listening to you, mate. We have the map on our screens, and what do you know? The first game itself on Erangel, we are looking on to the military base island being where the zone could very well result on being.
They look completely unanswered. I'm talking about the Khali Titans. I mean, look at the 4 players. One is in the water, closer to the shore where military bridge, obviously the shorelines are actually present, and one on that very southern tip of that Milta power area. This is looking not good for the Khali Titans, but for the moment it is looking good for teams like T3. That is going to be of obviously the third eye, and obviously for the team Fear. So a lot of teams are in the same vicinity, but some teams like NV, the SCL NVS are holding the shorelines area where they are finding themselves in a centralized position, and I guess if the circle comes close towards them, this is going to be the one team that will be getting a lot of chance. But it is surprisingly again no Rapnoy Bridge that is completely left barren and have the opportunities for most of the teams to actually trespass, but it is going to be Fury X Nepo that is still on the main island and just peppering down the bullets onto the players, and they are just trying to take more and more kill, but I guess it's the moment that they need to make an entry into the zone.
Well, talk about Khali Titans, as you were mentioning. I mean, this team, they tried to make that water rotation, and as they tried to do so, the circle has moved yet again further away from them. So it's not going to be an easy task for them to try and cover after they recover themselves from the water itself. And as we move on along to the team of Team Justice right here, we do see that they are very close in proximity to NPC indeed. And as they try and, of course, take on that fight, it is going to be NPC. If they are not careful, that might be at the receiving end, because, of course, Ross Wan right here, he knows exactly what to anticipate when it comes to the opponent team, and he has already prone himself down and is going to be absolutely careful. So is his teammates. So a GG play being showcased from the side of GS indeed, but will that be a cause and effect sort of a situation? Because NPC, they are looking none the wiser. They are going to be getting themselves into the vehicle, not gaining any perspective towards that fight. They will be moving away from that exact retaliation that could have been anticipated, and with that, we've got the second airdrop being dropped on with the perfect level 3 loot and MK14.
Again, the first airdrop also offered you that Marksman 14, again Marksman 14. So a team on a very fine day, just imagine if a squad, I mean, if they just encounter these 2 drops in on their own way, I mean, they would actually turn beast to the situation. But for now, it is going to be Team JusticeZ that are on our TV screen, and slowly and steadily, they are trying to make a maneuver into the zone. They are already into the zone, but on the edge of the circle, and all these ridges that we are getting to see are on the western side of the map, and they are looking pretty strong at the moment. With 3-1 split, it is going to be 0-4 that is proning down, and just in order to cut off the rotation, he is making sure that any team from the shoreline area, if he tries to come closer, he will be putting a big dent on his face and obviously on the team. But on the other players, some are in the fortified area, so Team Justice are looking pretty settled at the moment, pretty strong, pretty sublime, I would say, because some players in the compound, some players on the edge of the circles, they are also looking up to take the fight, but not the unnecessary ones.
Well, for now, that is certainly going to be the case, and cause, of course, when we talk about this team of NPC, they were very close towards the Team Justice, who are at the edge of the zone for the moment. NPC tried to move away from that situation and have found themselves a pretty neat compound that they can call their own, and it is looking absolutely in comfortable position as well. As we move on to the map itself, it clearly showcases in the green NPC looking very comfortable, but right next to them is going to be another team. But thankfully, of course, NPC have the cover of the compound that could very well work in their favor. On the tangent, talk about the Team Vengeance. They are taking a fight of their own, as we just heard a few little burst damage that was being brought on along from the players, and eventually we shall have to see if that resulted in any sort of fight or not, or any sort of kill or not. For now, it is going to be, of course, 15 teams still remaining. We're 15 plus minutes into the game, and this is when things are going to go absolutely berserk, because there's not a lot of spot and not a lot of area that's remaining. But on the northern front, we can clearly see that TGT, the team of Gurkhali Titans are making a very interesting rotation where TGT AJ has been dropped on down. Maybe it was perhaps based on the play zone itself. Tilak has made a northern rotation, whereas his teammate is going to be approaching from the eastern front itself. So an interesting play being showcased from the side of TGT, where they are absolutely separated from each other. On the other tangent, we once again back on towards the team JusticeZ, and they are taking on the players of Royal for now.
One player has already fallen down. That means Royal officials are really putting themselves in a good position at the moment, with the third eye getting a knock onto the players onto the opponent side. They are looking pretty much strong at the moment with the AKM with the red dot. A good spray that already brought one player just on the 40 HP. That means they will be bringing a lot of time for them in order to regroup and just trying to make an different sort of rotation. But it is going to be VOD, Veterans of Death, that are making it really tough for this situation. But on this side, it is going to be the C building, where we're heading towards the fight, where the third eye is completely down to their feet, with the players looking strong at this moment. NTT Nepal, it is the one that is pushing onto the players of Team 3. Grenades are being used just in order to flush off the players, and he will be finished off before he realizes that he's pretty much close, and grenade, why to waste it, because he is pretty much close, and use of Beryl will come into case as the third eye. Last player, I guess, standing onto that police station area on the backhand side, and he will be taking care, but won't be giving a lot of damage onto the other hand side. It was seeming like NTT Nepal gave a push onto the players of obviously the third eye, and they just succumb to the pressure. But for the moment, it is going to be the third eyes, Soren and Al-Basti, the two players with some real good and big names. Will they be able to make a big maneuver, big management in this game? We have to still wait for that, and for that it is going to be RF official that are really making it difficult for Reaper X. I mean, Reaper X still now, it has not been any easy task. It has not been an easy journey and not an easy pursuit for them, because coming close from the area, from the military bridge, they were already being camped, and as soon as they made an entry, it was RF official that was already waiting for them. But it is not an easy task for most of the other teams, as well as we get to see THE, the legend Esports, Carl going down, and with that, it seems that most of the fights will be breaking off in a moment or so. We are heading towards the 18th minute of the game. It is going to be 125 meter for JusticeZ to make an entry, but I don't see any route. Even if they smoke the area, I don't see any route for them.
Well, the only thing that they can do is run straight forward into the circle itself, and of course they will try and take on the players of the other team as they try and get into the zone's comfort, but it's not going to be an easy task, as you so perfectly mentioned. On the other tangent, we are going to move on towards those final few moments where TGF, even though making that basic long rotation, have resulted in getting themselves caught off guard, and it is not looking too good for them. On the other tangent, it is going to be Entity Nepal as well, who are taking on the players of VOD. That is going to be Veterans of Death. All across the board, the fights are taking place. Royals player go down. The legend Esports Odin is the one who has been able to get that kill for himself. The first kill for the team indeed, and it's all thanks to Odin eventually. And as the progression moves on into the game, we move on towards Entity Nepal going up against the players of VOD. That's going to be Veterans of Death. And this fight has been continuing on for quite a long time, where these two teams have been going on against each other, but have resulted in taking on players against each other. And eventually it is going to be Cocktail from the side of Entity Nepal, who's been brought on down to his knees, and eventually will probably be losing his life, perhaps if Nasty could have been on point, because right now his teammate is going to be right there, and Entity Nepal might just get a little bit of a revival from the looks of it, and that will certainly be the case. On the other tangent, talking about the team of VOD, they are left with just a two-man army, and that's not looking too good.
Nasty just got knocked from the backhand side. He was trying to lob in a grenade, but he didn't make sure that it is going to be Veterans of Death that are coming close slowly and steadily, and they are the veterans. They know how to craft all these games, and in all this situation, it is going to be Nasty that will be bleeding off. So a push that was going into favor of NTT Nepal when they pushed onto the players of Third Eye, they have been certainly slapped. I would say slapped, because two players have been straight away eliminated, with Nasty going down, Mogambo going down, and the rest of the players not getting a lot of chance. But as soon as Veterans of Death just found themselves out in the open, it seemed that they have been third party from different directions. With that vehicle being burst off, they really tried hard to create that smoke cloud, but it seemed that they should have found themselves in the fortified area. Entity Nepal, for now, it is going to be an easy task to survive in the middle of all these rubbles, but once the player will coming in, we'll get to see as Carl brings one more knock from the sides of the legend Esports, as he was knocked down a moment back, and now he has started retaliating.
Wow, what a play this is turning out to be. 10 teams remaining, 20 minutes into the game itself, we are looking at a lot of fights all across the board indeed. And right here we do have, of course, the Legend Esports' Odin once again chiming into the action with some perfectly set up nade parade that he's bringing on to the players of Vengeance. And eventually Vengeance have 2 players already knocked. So that means the final player that is remaining from the side of Vengeance is going to have to obliterate this competition that's being showcased from the side of Odin. But will he be able to do so? It's not easy because it is going to be all to himself to take on the onslaught from Vengeance. On the other tangent, it is going to be SCL and VS who are also absolutely fearlessly moving on along with 6 kills already confirmed for themselves. This team is absolutely annihilating and pulverizing the competition that they come across. And right here we do see the domination coming in name of SCL and VS's F1. And eventually on the other tangent, as we go back down towards Odin's conversation, he is the one who is taking care of his teammate. Panda OP is the man who is going to be able to revive because these are the only 2 players surviving from the side of Legends Esports. And with that, another team getting knocked. So 9 teams remaining, 21 minutes in.
Definitely. Since the circle has gone to the northern side, that means the plain direct area won't be coming into the frame. That means you get a lot of ridge to play, and just because of that, it is going to be NPC. The team is holding that ridge, and since they're holding the ridge, they just cannot afford to get down by these sprays because they already have a sort of cover where they can actually hide, but some use of grenades are to be used to perfection as Odin is now trying to take the fight. He has the UMP, but it seems that he doesn't have the extended. That doesn't offer him to actually go for the random fires. He has spotted on the players as players are jumping in a perplexed way. He is in a limbo. He found himself in open position, but on single HP, Rohit brings down, and with this, it is going to be an end to Vengeance squad. And from the backhand side, it is going to be team third that is looking pretty strong at the moment, and that is the third eye. I mean, they have their eyes all set up on. They know where the fights are actually happening, be it with third party situation, be it head-on-head collision. Now, since they are finding themselves in the fortified area, they are looking pretty strong at the moment. But since the circle has shifted away from these teams, it is going to be the one team, NPC, just the single teams. But look at this, how fast SCL, they are onto the toes, and the way they are moving slowly and steadily onto the players of NPC. At any point, at any moment, one of both these teams can go down.
Well, NVS certainly are going to be moving on to a perfect rotation and getting themselves absolutely secure into that circle itself. And on the tangent, we do see the second team that's going to be moving into a comfortable spot is going to be the third eye with the 2 players that they are surviving with. But that is all that they've got. Eventually, third eye's final player who was out in the open has been caught off guard, thus leaving only 1 player remaining on the tangent. Talk about Fear 10. They still have all 4 players alive. They have had a dominating run as well with 7 kills to their name, but do not find themselves in the comfort of the zone for the moment. So as they try and make that rotation, this is not going to be an easy task for them because there are still 6 more teams apart from them that are remaining on the other tangent. As we move on down towards the third eye, there's only 1 final player remaining who finds himself in this small little shack, and it is going to be none other than Suron 3-on-3, and he has to try and capitalize this situation for the longest time that he possibly can. The team has 4 kills for themselves, but on the other tangent, TGT, the Gurkhali Titans, who made that wonderful long rotation, are chiming in into the vicinity as well as they bring on the players of Fear and are slowly and steadily bringing them down. As Fear 10 we just saw had 4 players surviving, but eventually they were outside the zone. They are going to be trying to get into the zone, but it's not going to be an easy task. TGT still find himself in a perfect spot as he is taking on that onslaught to whatever team he tries to get his process towards.
2 knocks in single player as Fear 10 goes down, and now realizing the fact, urging the sensor situation. Tilak is going down slowly and steadily, but he is also receiving a lot of shots from different directions. That is going to be SCL NVS, the team that is in the purple position, the purple mark onto the northwestern side of the map, is really putting down Tilak player, the last player standing from the Gulkhali Titans, and this gives a lot of opportunity for the Fear 10 to regroup. And there we go, Tilak just brought down to 10 HP. I mean, I guess this is the lucky guy because on the top, coming from 7th story 2 down, I mean, it takes a lot of effort, but still surviving. We'll see how the luck actually favors, because at the end of the day, it's the luck, it's the brave that is favored by the luck. But for now, it is going to be the third Titan that has completely ripped off the players. And there we go, we are down towards the 6 team and 10 players still alive. It is going to be the last player, Sauron 3-1-3 from the side of the third eye, using some grenades and retreats with perfection. And Fury NEPALZ, Fury X NEPALZ from the backhand side, trying to create a lot of ruckus on the situation. Fear 10 completely get annihilated, and in all these situations, it is going to be FN's player that are looking strong at this moment. The third eye, Sauron, is still taking the fight. Tilak, it is going to be a daunting task for him as he knows that Sauron is in this position. But does Sauron know? Does Sauron know? Yes, he knows it well. If this grenade connects, he can go down. And yes, there we go. He has been brought down to death as he now finds himself 6 feet inside the ground.
Well, Sauron playing the game to perfection. Even though he is a one-man army, he is not wanting to just give it down to the luck itself. He is playing the cards right, and he is, of course, getting those kills for himself. So with that, we've got 4 teams remaining. We do have, of course, Entity Nepal with Mahang being the final player remaining. From the other tangent, from Soran, Third Eye, it is going to be that final player remaining. But it is not going to be for long, because as we can clearly see, Fury X NEPALZ player has moved on along, and it is going to be Aldar who will get that kill from him, thus leaving us with only 3 teams remaining. It is a 3v2v1 situation where NVS are certainly, SCL NVS are certainly looking very, very comfortable, but they've been so quiet in the past few minutes that perhaps when it comes to the opponent teams, they have absolutely no idea where to anticipate SCL NVS's spray from.
Exactly, it was this position where, if you remember the green marker team, it was NPC this time, and the moment the actually circle took a shift, they were on their toe. They were just waiting and watching. They had a clear vision. The intent was clear that we are getting anyways, anything can happen in our pursuit, but we are going to be the one that will be getting hold of all these positions, and that has certainly helped them. But now they need to realize that it is going to be Fury X NEPALZ players that are pretty much close to where SCL NVS are present. It is going to be 3 teams from the sides of SCL, so I guess it is not going to be that tough for them, because obviously the numbers advantage offers you a lot of gunpower, a manpower, and obviously a lot of area to scout on to the other hand side. It is going to be the last player surviving from the sides of EN, and it is going to be Hang from his side. Will he actually trying to prove the prowess or not? We have to still wait for that. But Fury X, 6 kills already onto the name. I mean, the Glads need the commending thing. The lad needs the applause for the moment, as they have made it this far with Aldar getting a lot of kill. He has a lot of grenade in his bag till now, as he is also again trying to do so, as Triggs now being deployed with a lot of grenade. Hang is still surviving from the sides of Entity Nepal. Will he be enough for the rest of the teammates? We have to still wait for that. All he just need to do is to find himself away from all these positions, but since Triggs has already spotted down a Hanaf R7, it seemed that all of a sudden Envy's obviously the hope looks glimmering now.
Well, it is looking dooming, of course, but on the other tangent, the final player from India Nepal, Mahang, is bringing in some perfectly set up nade parade onto the players of course, Fury, and this is looking absolutely ludicrous for his side, because he's just a one-man army, but being so quiet, he has been able to get so much of information, and Fury X NEPALZ are not looking too good, as Molotov and nade being paraded from the side of Mahang are resulting in him absolutely decimating the competition. And of course, in this moment is when SCL NVS are probably trying to get themselves recuperated, as we did see that small little push that was made from the side of Fury was resulting in that team faltering down, but eventually SCL will get the chicken dinner, because Mahang all by himself did take on Fury X NEPALZ. He did get those kills, but it was SCL that of course got themselves back on track and got that perfect setup for themselves. 7 kills. 1,398 damage is what this team was able to deal. With 22 points, they walk away on the 10th position.
Straight on 10th position, I mean, started things off. They were on the 17th. Everyone on set was 17th from Group C and D, because they were coming in with a 0 slate coming in. But since it was a chicken for their name, it is going to be an easy task for them to come out this 10th position. And I guess it was a pretty decent game, a lovely gameplay coming in from SCL. And they made sure that they don't indulge in those unnecessary fights. All the teams that found in the open and in the center ground position were the team that got just smacked off and was just too bruised in order to bloom in the same area. But in that same situation, it was SCL NVS that found themselves into that position where they were holding the ridge. There were some big tree trunks, there were some big rocks where they found their shelter, and also at one position it was the Khali Titan still that also received a lot of shots. That means they were taking the fight.
I sorry to cut you off, but I do want to say that when it came down to NVS's rotation, right?
I mean,
that rotation perfectly worked for them.
They were on their toes.
Northern rotation that they made, there was no other team around then. It was the green team that was still around in the vicinity, NPC. But that was it. And that is the moment that NVS completely claimed the game. And after that, they were so quiet.
Exactly. I mean, they could have taken the fight.
They did not let any other team know that they're going to be there, and then just being absolutely pincered down is what they tried to.
Even if NEPALZ actually tried to pin them down, there was no retaliation. Eventually, it was Mahang from a different team that actually tried to take him down. Exactly. It was from Nepal, and then
mind games. You know, mind games is what NVS played, and that is just absolutely fabulous to be able to see, because this is what Group C and D bring to the table. I mean, who would have anticipated this sort of a dominating play, and not from one team, right? There were a couple of teams who were doing that. With that, let's move on along and have a look at the player, rather not the team, who has been the MVP for this game.
Definitely, and the title goes to SCL NV's Feriwala with 4 kills, 752 damage, and 25 minutes 40 seconds complete survival time. Assist is 3. last day we saw, I guess, a max of 4 assists, and the team actually got the chicken dinner.
6 assists in fact.
Okay, that 4 was in Wildcard and 6 was in BD region. I mean, half of it. I mean, you give more and more assists to your team, to your players, and the rest of the lobby. And you just get to find yourself at the top. And healing now just 82. This number shows the 82 that the team was not indulged in a lot of fight. Only fight that helped them get the secure the chicken dinner was the fight that they took against Mahang, and it was an all easy affair for them.
Absolutely was, and doing so resulted then in getting the chicken dinner, first chicken dinner between Group C and D from the wildcard region. As we move on along towards the top players, we do have, of course, entities Mahang chiming in along as well. Entity NEPALZ, Mahang, the final player who we did see get that second position in this overall game and was able to dish out quite a lot of damage against the side of course, Fury X Nippers indeed. And as the more conversation moves on, it is going to be Fury's Fear 10's Anil who will be chiming in on the 10th position. But in all of this, we do have to talk about Tilak from TGT. Sure. I mean, the rotation that Tilak, rather not Tilak himself, but the entire team of TGT made, the Gurkhali Titans. We saw some perfectly set up what should I say, like perfectly set up spots, right? From the water rotation to the air rotation to the swimming to the ground. That was all TGT. That was all TGT. And then finally, chiming in along, it was Tilak who finally started to take some fights onto himself. And that worked out, of course, in his favor. And as we move on along, we have the match summary starts on our screens.
Exactly. Feriwala finding himself in the highest skill tally with the third eye. Basti, obviously Al-Basti getting that longest skill distance of 264 meters. Feriwala again in that highest damage, as we just saw in that overall MVP list, getting a lot of damage into his own name. And then it was Entity NEPALZ Cocktail. He didn't, maybe he would have used those mocktails and those grenades and those utilities to its perfection, and just because of that we got to see him in the 16 most utility use, and Feriwala again with the maximum assist. So it was all in all complete domination with SCL NVS.
Most certainly was. I mean, I remember Entity Nepal was the team that was trying to take on the players of VOD, Veterans of Death, in that vicinity for a long time in that, but eventually of course did come up on top, and in doing so resulted in getting themselves, and all thanks to of course the way Nepal played, it was resulting in that team of Entity Nepal getting onto that second position. But SCL NVS walking away with 7 kills, 22 total points for the chicken dinner, looking absolutely ferocious. But again, nothing can be taken away from these first 7 teams. All of these teams have been part of some amazing kills, and as we move on to the second page as well, I mean, Repo right here we can clearly see also walked away with 4 kills for themselves. Sadly, no placement point. Same of course is the side of RF Official, 4 kills, no placement point, but GG play being showcased, and the conversation moves on forth still because Veterans of Death were also part of it. Nepal Esports were also part of that kill spray, but the teams that are from 14th to 16th have not had a good start to the day. But hopefully, of course, this is just the first game. We will see how the day progresses on for these teams.
Exactly, 13 to 16 where Reaper X just got chopped off, and also it was RF Official, and both the teams, mind you, I'll have my clear eyes. I mean, they took the fight in the most odd situation. They were in the blues, they're fighting against all the odds, and for the moment it is going to be us that will taking through the overall journey for the overall ranking post-match 5. The first page looks pretty much the same after the end of the first match for Group C and D. Not much of change that we get to see, since it is all the teams that we are getting to see that played in last game, yesterday's A and B. It was also a good time watching Paradox, OCE, PUBG Minion Esports straight out of Fiji. But as we move down towards the second half of the chart, it is going to be SCL NVS, it is going to be Entity Nepal, the only 2 teams that are finding in the 9 to 16 position out of the total 16 that are playing for today in the early stage of the game. I mean, SCL NVS, they have already made a big strong leap.
They most certainly have. I mean, just 2 kills shy of Team Ronak is what this team has showcased in the first play itself. And of course, that is hopefully just not the end story for the team as the day progresses on along. As we move on to the third page of the leaderboard, we are looking at NEPALZ from Group A and B moving on down towards the 18th position on the other tangent. The other teams who just played are going to be getting themselves acclimated to the entirety of this leaderboard. But that's not it, because there is still one more page to go on through, and that is where we shall see the teams that are going to be at the last page of the leaderboard. And this is where Sixth Sense sadly finds themselves not looking good. But again, that is not a team that is playing today. We shall stick to the teams that are playing today, and that is where out of officials, Reaper X, Nepal Esports, the Legend Esports, Godfathers, I mean, these are the teams, Team Justice, Face of Death, these are the teams that we shall try and keep our eyes towards, and hopefully they try and make it a perfect different game altogether as the journey progresses on along towards game number 2, and that is hopefully going to be the moment that these teams on the final page of the leaderboard will showcase a different result altogether. But before we jump into the second game, it is time to take a short little break, give our vocal cords a little bit of, well, water, I guess.
Relief.
And exactly, relief. And you guys go ahead and get some popcorn. We're going to be right back. Stick around.
Here we go now.
Hello and welcome to PMCO 2021. This is the wildcard region and this is day number 2 where we start off the journey, of course, with Group C and D. Game number 1 has just taken place where we did see SCL NVS bring in some amazing plays, but that was not the only team that showcased some perfectly set up skills for themselves. Eventually, again, there were other teams that were looking so very good, but that was just first game. I mean, talk about the game number 2 is where things are going to get that much more interesting. So without further ado, let's jump right into game number 2, and that is going to be none other than Miramar, that we shall see the flight path on our screens any minute now.
Exactly, and as I told you, it is going to be Reaper X that I'll have my eyes set upon. It is the one that observers has listened to us, and we will getting to see where they are jumping off. For the moment, it is going to be, I guess, Reapers in the past have jumped down towards the area of Power Grid, and especially in this map. But for now, a sort of different drop location is where they are approaching towards. The flight path seems to be completely dominating on the western side. In the last game of Erangel, if you remember, Outta, it was eastern side. The circle completely went on the southern side. I mean, no sort of an anonymous city. But for the moment, it is going to be in the western side. This is going to be an easy task for the teams that do love to go towards the area of Chumasera, and it seems that Reaper X are the one that will be finding a safe haven, and Lost Leonis is going to be a sort of contestation, I would say, because I expect at least 2 teams into the same position, into the same area, and if that happens, it is not going to be an easy task. For the moment, it is going to be the Godfathers. The gods are into this game with holding a good angle on the Lost Egos Island is where they are positioned for the moment. It is also going to be VNG. That is the Vengeance Us ES that is slowly and steadily moving towards the La Cubrilla areas. For the moment, it seems that we are already heading towards the fight, as I can already hear some of the shots in my headphones. And yep, the Legend Esports getting some early kills onto VOD. That is going to be a Vengeance of Death, and it is not looking good for them.
Ouch. That's an ouch moment right there. First 2 minutes itself, and VOD find themselves in the crosshairs of the Legend Esports. An amazing start to the team of the Legend Esports, indeed, no two ways about it. But for VOD, it is certainly not the way they hoped to get the game started off. Now, one thing that I can see in terms of the gameplay that both these teams are showcasing is the Legends are sticking together, as we can clearly see on the minimap. On the other tangent, talk about VOD. They have themselves flanked. They've got 2 players down on towards those compounds, and on the other tangent altogether, we do have the players of FOD right here, which is going to be Face of Death, taking on the players of Fear X NEPALZ, and indeed in doing so, they've got 1 player already down. Ego has been brought down to his knees, and Eldari, he's the man who will have to save his teammate, but that certainly is going to be easier said than done, because when it comes to the Face of Death, they are playing it synergistically. Of the entirety of the team is just absolutely combining their efforts together to get those kills confirmed, and already when it comes down to Face of Death, they've been able to get those 2 kills, and Eldari's position has already been revealed, and this is where it looks like Lupu, well, he almost got that nade, but it bounced off of the roof. But eventually, it is going to be Eldari who is going to be in the receiving end, and he will be knocked and brought down to his knees. And with that, what a play, what a miraculous play being showcased from the side of Face of Death, with 4 kills already in the first 3 minutes of the game.
Fury X NEPALZ, the team, I guess, that got #2 or #3 in the last game, is the one that got just separated in the very early stage of the game, and that's where we get to see Nepal Esports coming into the frame, and they are trying to pin down the players of FOD. Looking pretty strong at the moment, and this is where we're getting to see the early fights after eliminating 1 team. I guess it is going to be NE. That is Nepal Esports that are pretty much close, where FOD's player actually aligned, and it seems that since they have created a lot of sounds eliminating 1 team, now they need to back off, because in the early stage of the game you don't have a lot of loot, and since they have already invested a lot in eliminating 1 team, I guess they must be exhausted with everything. And since they are exhausted, the better option is to actually fall off before Nepal Esports starts striking them. But for the moment, it is also Nepal Esports that don't have a lot of loot, because the Sarkar doesn't even have a first aid, nor any med kit, sort of no helmet whatsoever, so nothing to actually shield if he is being peppered with bullets. But obviously the vision is strong, the intent is pretty much clear that yes, we are going to be taking the fight.
Absolutely. On the other tangent rather, as we move on down towards the other teams or the fights, it is going to be VOD's Gara, who is finding himself against the players of the Legends, and the Legends are absolutely impeccable in terms of the play that they've been able to showcase in the first few minutes of the game itself. And VOD's Gara, ouch moment for him as well, because he finds himself with not a lot of options for the moment. The Legends are just absolutely moving on along from one position to the other, getting their loot aggregated and brought for themselves. VOD's players are trying their level best, where indeed Slipknot from the other tangent is going to try and take on the fight to the face of the Legends themselves. Panda OP was in the crosshairs. Along with that, when it comes down to Dippin, he's been keeping a flank angle along with, of course, Slipknot, but eventually when it comes down to the cause of it, the Legends are that much more in control. with the way that they've been able to showcase in the first few minutes of the game. But now it is going to be an equal fight, and this is when VOD are trying to get themselves acclimated and sorted and hopefully get the fight working in their favor. They've lost one of the players, but that is not going to be resulting in them walking away from the situation. On the other tangent, talk about the Legends. They have all 4 players alive, but as far as the information itself is concerned, Panda OP being a little too open out in the open is going to be maybe visible, a little bit of a trouble.
Legs are visible, and legs is where Slipknot has his eyes set upon. He had just hovered his crosshair. That means he has actually spotted down his legs, but since he knows that legs won't be giving a lot of damage, eventually it will take more than 5 bullets to take him down, and then it will be a time where his position will get revealed. So in order to not get his position revealed, rather find himself in more susceptible position where he finds his head or maybe chest, and then put the final lead in his coffin and then get the kill done. But rather, veterans of that, they are now pretty strong at the moment. Now, since he has given a lot of shots, his location has been revealed. He's using that M4 with the suppressor. That means recoil is a bit tough to control. But since it's the suppressor, that means still the exact position of his is not getting revealed. But Team Justice is now slowly and steadily moving towards where the players of different teams are aligned. And it is not going to be an easy task. It is going to be NPC. And NPC knows that it is going to be Team Justice that has come in. But Justice doesn't know.
Well, for now it certainly looks like NPC are certainly aware of the situation that Justice have been able to present, but eventually will Sanhok be the one who will take on the fight onto the onslaught. He will most certainly be able to get the kill for himself. Just absolutely decimated Justice's player, no two ways about it, and his teammates are right around the corner on top of the hill as well, thus giving him the cover fire, and that's going to be working in absolutely NPC's favor. But Justice now finally bringing their eyes down towards the compound itself, know for a fact that there is another team right here, and they have to be very, very careful and precautious when it comes down to the play, the way the play is made from the side of Justice, because NPC, they have all the information and they want to be able to get the better half of this fight, and from the looks of it, they most certainly are going to be moving on along to get exactly the same thing done. For now, Ixcel is going to be blind, taken on the players, or rather trying to take on the players of NPC, but it's easier said than done because he's finding himself quite a lot outsmarted, and in that it is going to be all the players of NPC slowly and steadily pushing on against him and rushing him to fall back.
Exactly. And with that being said, some smokes are being used to actually trying to block off the area from the right hand side in order to not another player come in from different directions. But since now NPC are finding themselves in this full small 44 area, I'm still waiting where the rest of the 2 packs from the same teams are actually positioned. And if they are pretty much close, they need to actually make a push. But some grenades are being used. If this could have been some other time where Sandeep could have come at this position 1 second before that grenade landed, things could have really turned ugly. But still Sabo is waiting and waiting. He is making sure, but it seems that Sandeep's location is still anonymous, and here it is, all the 4 players charging in onto the players of Team Justice. This is going to be an even fight for the teams of NPC, with grounds being turned down to the red. Obviously the smokes are coming out from different directions, but this fight will have a conclusive thing, because this is actually happening, and Picardo between Power Grid is where this fight is actually happening. Till now, the Team Justice hasn't been able to secure at least 1 knock, and since they haven't, it seems that the numbers advantage will favor NPC again.
It most certainly looks to be the case, where indeed it is going to be Snart who has created that flank angle, and Sandeep on the other tangent is the man who is absolutely drawing Justice's attention, and that resulting Snart is going to be able to just get as much information as he possibly can. But as of now, they have not really been able to push on, or decided to push against the players of Justice, as Justice is of course utilizing all the utilities that they possibly can, and one after the other they're trying to just absolutely hunker down NPC's movement. But in doing so, this is where things can get absolutely wrong for Snart indeed, and it is the cause. It is going to be Sabo who has been trying and retaliating again and again with his utilities, finally bringing the fight to an equal favor. It is going to be a 3v3 situation because Snart has been brought down, and now it is Justice's conversation to be had, where they will be pushing on along. But Sandeep being so very quiet, not being able to rush on, and in doing so, sadly, even though he had the information, he has not been able to get a knock, not even a little bit of damage to Sabo, and Sabo on the other tangent is absolutely decimating the competition, and NPC in just a matter of minutes have been brought down to their knees with only 1 player who has the cause to himself, and Snart on the other tangent has just been given that revival. But will it be enough? No is the answer. Snart, with that small little help, will you be able to get revenge onto the team of Justice, even though it was of course none other than NPC who made that push. but Justice now, it has resulted in a 1v1 situation where Snart, will he give the revival or will he be making that push? For now, he's deciding to maybe give that revival. Yes, he will, to make an equal fight, and same is the conversation that JusticeZ Sabo is trying to do as well.
Sabo has been the X factor. He has been the flanker for his team. He really brought that first knock, and then it was on all easy. But from the backhand side, it is going to be obviously one team RF officials. Royals, the team, are making a rotation from the backhand side. They need to make sure that once they do so, they need to find themselves in that shack or maybe in those fortified area. With Sabo getting a lot of kill already into his name, it is going to be now a turn situation where 3 players are surviving from the sides of Justice and only 2 from the sides of NPC. Certainly, now the tides have turned and the tables have now been turned into the favor of Justice, and suddenly all of a sudden they're pretty strong at this moment. With the Rage deploying more and more Molotovs, it's still a position, it's still a place where the location is still anonymous, but the fight is still going on and on for the last 5 minutes, just because they are into the centralized position, and we have still not got the circles from the observer side. And I would love to see where the teams are actually positioned. For the moment, it is going to be Power Grid and Picado between the distance where the teams are at this moment, and the flight is just going on. But Team Justice, now it seems, and I would actually recommend and advise that they just either fall off and or wrap the fight as soon as possible.
They ought to. They certainly ought to. There's no two ways about it. But again, when it comes down to Justice's approach, they are slowly and steadily just pushing on along. And in that doing so, Rage is the one who is going to be receiving the final blow in the final front. And in that, it is Justice who get the better half of that fight. And eventually, Justice get only 1 player killed and were able to get them kills confirmed for themselves. And not only that, they absolutely decimated NPC. Even though a few moments ago, it was looking like NPC is the one who is looking absolutely advantageous in terms of the play that they were able to make against the players. But boy, oh boy, I mean, what a massive turn of events that was from the side of Justice. And it was just that one player who was able to retaliate, and I think it was Sado.
Exactly, Sado brought the first knock, and then it was an all easy affair for them, as now the fear did push on to the players of VOD, and it is going to be a tough task for them to retaliate, as Hades has brought the first knock and he will be getting the kill secured. And all these fights are happening on the area of Monte Nuevo. That is going to be 880 meters apart from the edge of the safe zone, and since they have got the knock, the kill got confirmed, and since there is a one Ronnie Tuck, the movement will be an easy thing for the moment, as now slowly and steadily they will be making an entry. But most of the teams are in a centralized position, and there we have the circle for us with the shifting downtown towards the area of southwestern side. It's the area of Graveyard, where again it is going to be the TGT, obviously sitting in the dead smack center with a lot of good players into its own way.
Well, what a play this is being turned out to be on the map of Miramar, where indeed we've got 12 minutes, almost 13 minutes in, 14 teams alive right now. And with that, the second airdrop bringing in that perfect bolt action AWM, along with, of course, the level 3 kit that is usually part of the drop itself. But along with all of this, there does not seem to be any team around in the vicinity to be able to get that loot for themselves. Sad indeed. But eventually, again, when it comes down to the zone, we're in the 3rd zone, and slowly and steadily in the next 15 seconds, we'll move on down towards the 4th cut. And right now, it is going to be once again the team of Godfather against the players of Entity Nepal. Now, Entity Nepal have themselves set up perfectly, but will it be enough? We can clearly see that Team Godfather also have themselves looking pretty neat, because they have the cover fire in terms of the teammate who is on top of that hill, giving that cover fire. That's going to be Monkey OP on the other tangent. The other teammates are going to be pushing on to try and take on a fight. But for now, as they find themselves pretty much at the edge of the zone, and Entity Nepal trying to get into the zone itself, Entity Nepal has walked away from the situation and will try and make a different rotation to get themselves into the comfort of the zone. On the other tangent, it is going to be none other than the royal officials who are going to be setting themselves also in this compound, and there is absolutely no contestation for themselves, because there is no team around the vicinity that this team find themselves in.
Yep, Royal officials pretty much settled at the moment. All 4 players just having a very good time, a cherishing time at this moment. All 4 players are not only just having a merry time, they are scouting down the area. We'll get to see Stratus holding a very good angle for the moment, where he using the gun to its perfection with the scopes and just trying to spot on the vehicle and spot on the players if they are available in safe vicinity. And this is where the passiveness of the Miramar comes in. This is where the settlement comes in. The truce settles in this desert island, where in the mid game stage there are not a lot of fights that erupted, but certainly it was a good game for Justice Nepal, for the team Justice for this moment, because they have gotten a lot of kills in the early stage of the game. And obviously one team did fall down, and it was obviously for the NPC, but for the moment it is two teams that have just been thrown out from this match. But Reaper X, now since they are holding the southwestern edge of the circle, they are trying to cut off a rotation for the team that are making a sort of different rotation, because they are going away from the circles rather not to come in, because the terrain, the flat, obviously doesn't allow them to do so, because there is a lot of impediments, a lot of hiccups in the moment, and just because of that they are going for a different route, and in doing so they have given a lot of sound cues. And since Reaper X are pretty much on their toes, they have heard it and they are now peppering those bullets onto them. But with the one more shift, just if that, imagine that goes toward the southern side, it will be completely favoring Reaper X and all those ridges that will come into the play. And there we go, a southern shift. I mean, Reaper X.
It's almost as if, Ankit, you called the circle towards you. You were just talking about it. You were just playing with your hands that, oh, please, just come down right here, mate. And the circle just
you see all these
absolutely
ridges. I mean, Reaper X can actually have very merry time on this.
And they have been. The circle, the PUBG gods have basically heard you, and they have been able to, give Reaper X the X factor, so to say, in terms of this fight. On the other tangent, it is going to be none other than Fear10, who find themselves at the edge, and they are trying to get themselves into the comfort of the zone. On the other tangent, it is going to be TGF who are at the receiving end thanks to SCL and VS's play, and it is Ferawala who is taking on that onslaught to the players of TGF. Eventually, again, Fear10 are going to have to, as Ankit was mentioning, make a different rotation out of this cause, because Reaper X will certainly not be allowing this team of Fear10 to get into the zone, at least from this angle.
Exactly. The Fear10 need to find some different route, and just because of that they are traversing for different direction, because they know that the ridge that can come into play has been stronghold by Reaper X, and as soon as the team completely get a stronghold of it, they are being the wiser team and just going for different route, and they have made the rotation. But from different directions, it is gonna be the different teams that are coming into the fight. It is gonna be obviously the team of the legends going head to head against Entity Nepal, where all the 4 players are in the fortified areas, but that fortified area is in that dip situation, and all the 3 directions, I mean, at least the 270 degrees are completely been used by the other teams, which has the ridges along that side. But Legend Esports, they are pretty much close, but they are not looking to take up the fight, rather trying to go for some different sort of approach. They are now falling down from different directions, but they need to make sure if they create a lot of noise onto the players of Royal Officials, it is going to be from the backhand sides Entity Nepal that can pin them down at any moment.
Well, this is where SCL and VS is again and again just coming into that perfect setup for themselves, and are bringing in quite a lot of damage for that is looking absolutely phenomenal. But in that doing so, it is going to be another team that is going to be face of death being sent back into the lobby, thus remaining are only 13 teams with 17.5 minutes in. 4th circle is being already drawn, and this is going to be absolute chaos, because 43 players are part of this circle, and this is going to be, of course, on Miramar, where the ridges is the only thing that can either favor you or bring in an onslaught against you, because there will be third parties that can be expected in this entirety of the circle. On the other tangent, bring the conversation down towards the kills themselves, it is going to be none other than Team Justice, who are now trying to pinch it down the players of Royal Officials. We did see Royal Officials find themselves in that compound a few minutes ago, but eventually it is now being pinched down, because after all the circle is being drawn on across, and the teams are going to be trying to make that rotation to get into the zone. And as they do so, it seems like it is none other than Team Justice who have been able to spot Royal Officials, and with 4 kills, Team Justice looking pretty phenomenal for now.
Not looking good for certainly. The omens are certainly not favoring. The omen is certainly not looking good for the team that is in the compound, but certainly it is going to be one thing that Raw Officials need to find themselves, is that how quickly they find themselves away from all these compounds. But they do really have a good chance to secure a lot of kills, because the players out on the open, they don't have a lot of compound, a lot of thing to actually find themselves and just turn away from all these bullets. All they just need to do is to just burst down all those vehicles vehicles, and then they will be hampering and puncturing down the rotation. But for the moment, it is going to be Royal officials that are still finding themselves into the circle, but Fear 10 Fragger is just going slowly and steadily onto the one team, takes one knock, and there we go. It seems that now the fight will be erupting, but he's not making sure that in small little shack there's one more player, but from the back hand side there's going to be Fear 10 headers that will be bringing the knock onto Goku from the sides of the Godfather, and both the team are going head to head. Now Fear 10 is one team, if I remember correctly, in the last game of Erangel, really have a good time, merry time in terms of the kill that they were looking to secure right off the go. They were looking to get a lot of kills, but it is going to be Team Godfather that at any point can be sandwiched, backstab from the backhand side. Is this revival wise enough? Is this revival wise enough? I mean, that grenade came in, that separated Coop RB from him, but still not taking him down. But one more follow-up grenade, and one player just got bred down, and that player that was giving the revival, I'm sure that he was pretty lucky. He was pretty lucky. I mean, you need all these lucks.
You most certainly do, and the fight is still not yet done, because again, I mean, we talk about those third parties, there is going to be none other than the third eye who's been chiming in along to take those kills for themselves. And in the kill feed, we can clearly see that SCL are taking a fight against the players of TGT indeed, and along with that, so many kills have been brought on. Reaper taking on the fight against the players of Fear 10, VOD taking a fight against TGT, and amazing turn of events where third parties is the name of the game for the moment. On the other tangent, it is going to be the third eye who will be able to walk away from that very silly situation that we did just witness, where indeed the revival being brought on at not the right time, resulting in the kill being confirmed for themselves. On the other hand, TGT are now at the receiving end, and within a matter of minutes, Bastei has been able to confirm that kill with the M3. What a perfect spray that was, and that is still not yet done. 10 teams remaining, and as we move on along, it is going to be Vengeance trying to take on the onslaught to the players of course, SCL and VS, where Shafi has been brought down, and Fuck has the only one who is going to be, well, we do not know if he's going to be the one who will be able to give that revival or not, because he has to try and get that working in that team's favor. But there are just so many teams around them that is going to make things so very tricky for them.
Exactly, we can get to see the trajectory, the yellow trajectory from the backhand side. That means some teams are from the backhand, and that is going to be of NTT Nepal that is trying to pin the run. But from the northern side, it is going to be NTT Nepal that is reigning supreme. One kill is already on its name. The player are looking strong at this moment. Everyone is just taking the fight, but just not over-aggressing. And this is one thing that I'm really fan about. In the last game, I also saw NTT Nepal just don't over-aggress. And in this game also, we get to see a lot of opportunities. But till now, it is going to be Reaper Rex that are completely away from all these fights. It seems that now they are positioning themselves. Now they are not indulging themselves in all these mid-ranges fight and all these mid-stage fight. But now there we go. Exodia comes up with knock onto the players of Justice, and it seems that all of a sudden Justice look completely unsettled. They are looking in the predicament where they need to find themselves away from this, and all these thicks and thins are being brought in this map thanks to the downfall that is coming from the sides of Reaper X. But there we go. Roll officials is also making sure that they're getting a lot of kills. 4 kills is what they're starting at the moment, with Stratus getting strong at this moment. It is also Sai that is looking to open up his bank account with 0 kills already on his name. He needs that one. He needs that one from 0 to 1. Will he be able to do so? If he wants to, he can, as he has that opportunity of taking down Tampe, as the legend Esports is on the backhand side.
Well, legend, certainly Mr. Tampe is the one who is going to be trying to bring in that onslaught against the players of RF officials, but will it be to the cause that the legends stand for? Because as of now, it is looking not so easy. We've got 7 teams remaining in that doing so. Reaper are absolutely in control. I mean, Reaper X, they've got 8 kills for themselves and absolutely obliterating the entirety of the lobby. The legend Esports, Mr. Tampe, has been caught off guard and is going to be sent back into the lobby. Thus, remaining are only going to be 7 teams now. And in that, again, Reaper X having had the circles advantage, having had the perfect ridge advantage, have the information for themselves, are taking on fights with so many individual teams. Once again, Reaper's Wardan is the one who takes on the players of Royal officials.
Look at the split. Look at the split. This can prove really dreadful for the other teams that are in the lobby. And Mugambu has been spotted down, but Wardan is still not giving out his exact position, because he has spotted down. All he is doing is that getting the cover of that big cliff, that big hillock, and getting as much as more info that he can do. He has again spotted him down, but till now still taking the fight. That means maybe he's just waiting for the right moment to strike, but I guess this is the right moment from my side. But the players in the battleground really do have some different ideas, and just because of that, we are casting and they are actually playing. It's easy to say rather than to do, and that's where they actually are playing at this moment. But NTT Nepal losing 3 players all of a sudden. Mugambo, the last player surviving, he is on his lonesome, surviving in that small little shack. I really feel sad for him, because a moment back he had that accommodation, he had that hands of all the 4 players, all the 3 players apart from from him, and all of a sudden he has gone down. And not only him, it is going to be Exodia, and now Justice are retaliating. Now Justice are take the revenge against Reapers, but in all the situations it's going to be vengeance that is going on. And also Justice, a very good, brilliant spray coming in. A complete annihilation is what Reaper X has brought down, and with this, Vardhan with a lot of kills.
Well, Vardhan certainly with a lot of kills and a lot of X factor being showcased from his side, and also being very, very generous in terms of the play, because Entity NEPALZ Mogambo being the final player surviving, he is only to thank Vardhan for giving him that exact same blessing for his survival on the other tangent. Talk about top 5 teams remaining. We've got the third eye. We of course do have the team that is absolutely obliterating the entirety of the lobby. That's going to be the Reapers, and along with that, Entity NEPALZ Mogambo. And we also, of course, do have Fear. So it is not looking too easy for these teams. And in that, Fear is going to find himself with the final player, with the final player, Third Eye, trying their level best to push on to the players of Reaper X. But again, when it comes down to Reaper X, it seems like they have the control of the entire saga. They have got themselves split, as Ankit was mentioning, and in doing so, have the entire information of all the other opponent teams that are part of the circle. We've got 4 teams remaining, 25 minutes into.
Not going to be an easy task for each and everyone, as two players are in a split. From the right hand side, it is going to be Baal and it is going to be Vardhan that are taking the blessings from his teammates and from the gods, and they are looking to pinch it down the player. With Third Eye coming slowly and steadily, it is going to be Reaper X player that they need to realize that they need to check up their bracket. But it seems that now Vardhan is going slowly and steadily with AKM coming into action. He takes down one, but on the verge of falling himself down. But Baal coming in for the backhand side, he takes him down, and with this, 1 kill has been registered to his teammates. 12 kill is where the whole team is standing, and out of that, it is going to be Sam OP with his overpowered game. One more knock. Will he be able to convert into that kill? But in all the situation, it is gonna be Raw officials that is getting slowly and steadily down to their knees, but it is not looking good. Raw officials slowly and steadily going down, and there we go. RF official completely being eliminated, and second team also being eliminated. And what a game! I told you, I mean, Blotter, 15 minutes before, actually the circle made a shift. That certain shift that completely favored them, and with the rage which they were playing, it was certainly gonna be Reaper's game, and they made sure. I mean, this is what having advantage and trying to convert and calibrate in your own way.
True.
Is the difference that you create. Eventually, there were other teams. The Third Eye that was also coming from the southern side. They could have backstabbed, but they were just not enough, as the numbers advantage is what favored the Reapers. But certainly a good game for also Third Eye, but 2710 damage. A total is what Reaper X secured from this match. 14 kills straight off this 7th position. Total 29 points. I mean, what a game for them. In the last game, it was SLS Envy that find themselves in the 11th position. Last game, it was not Reapers. This game, one good game. I mean, that's how a chicken can help you. Straight off the bat, right off the go, onto the first half of the chart. I mean, they must be looking pretty phenomenal at this moment.
You know what? I've got one thing to say. Just one thing.
What?
You're the blessing for Reaper, dude. You are the blessing for Reaper. I kid you not, because as soon as Ankit mentioned, he was absolutely trying to draw the circle down towards Reaper, and as soon as he drew that, that's exactly when the history was made, when the fate was written for Reaper, and indeed doing so has resulted in, as so perfectly mentioned by you, that yes, having the circle in your favor is one thing, but then playing it right is absolutely another, and that is when skill counts, and Reaper X certainly have the skill. With that, let's move on and have a look at the MVP coming in from this game, the most valuable player, and that is going to be none other than Sam OP with 6 kills, 5 assists, 1078 damage. I mean, yes, he had some healing done as well throughout those fights, 243 healing done, but again, I mean, 6 kills along with 5 assists is an incredible number. And that is all thanks to, of course, Reaper's teammate, or rather Sam OP's teammate, and of course, himself and his skill set itself.
Definitely. I mean, all the 4 players were just alive because he has gotten a lot of assists into his card, under his collar registered. 5 is what the number stands at the moment for Sam OP. In the last game, the team did falter down. I told you the team really looked good. It was just the odds that were looking pretty much odd against them, and in that situation, they perished. But this time, when everything was in their favor, the numbers advantage, the zone was in there, the rotation was just spot on, and the moment where they actually find themselves away from this fight. Remember, I told you in the mid stage of the game, from 18 to 22 minutes, they were in the circle. They were spotting everyone down. We were questioning their the decision that they were not taking the fight, but it is the teams, it is the player that actually bloom in all these situations because they have a better understanding of the gameplay in their own way. And with that, we head towards the top players where 1078 damage, Reaper X, Sam OP gets survival time complete 24 minutes 34 seconds. And was it a more fast Miramar, I guess? I mean, that could have been
quick.
prolonged because 24 minutes 34 seconds is where we get to see more often Sanhok and sometimes Erangel too. But Miramar, we do generally get to see 26, 27 or maybe 28.
Absolutely, that is the case, but it was thanks to Reaper X who absolutely just jumped in with the aggressive stance that they were able to make, and with that, again, were able to just absolutely obliterate the entirety of the lobby, one team after the other. As we talk about the top players itself, we also do see Vardhan right there on that second position. That's going to be again from the side of Reaper X indeed. And as we move on to the match summary, we've got Sam OP from Reaper X with the highest kill, along with Vardhan, his teammate, with the longest distance kill. That is going to be 298 meters. Highest damage, once again, of course, is going to be going down towards Sam OP's 1078, as well as the maximum assist in his favor. But Royal Sai with the most utilities used. So Royal Officials, Sai was the man who was trying to survive for quite a long time. We did see that onslaught where they were at the receiving end from the Reaper X, but those perfect smokes that were being utilized resulted in RF Officials players surviving for quite a long time, and of course they do get that second position in the match standing, where Reaper X walk away with 29 points, find themselves in the top 8 in the overall ranking with the 29 points that they've been able to accumulate. Out of Officials walk away with 6 kills and 10 placement points, thus resulting in 16 total points is what they got from this game. Entity Nepal had a decent run as well, once again working more towards the placement points, just 3 kills but 12 placement points gave them 15 points this time around, and all thanks to Mogambo, of course, because Mogambo, he was a lucky man, and all thanks to Vardhan as well for giving him that second life, so to say.
Yeah, he did. But certain teams did falter down. I'm talking about NPC, Nepal Esports, the Godfather, and Fury X NEPALZ. Fury X NEPALZ, the push that they were making, I mean, they really just faltered on the very early stage of the game, and just because of that, we didn't get to see. But for now, it's the moment we'll get to see the overall ranking post match 6. It is gonna be Reaper X trying to make an entry, and not only trying, they have the try is now successful one, as after just the game end of 2 total numbers is what they have played. 33 total point and just standing below a lot of team. If we just talk about this, 33 Reaper X and straight out of Fiji. Since 2 games is still left and the momentum that is Reaper X carrying, it is pretty much doable. It is pretty much doable, and not only for that, NTT Nepal too. Rather, they don't have a lot of kill, but certainly they are relying upon the placement position, because they have the placement position as equal as to PUBG Minion Esports that is on the second position.
That is so very true indeed, and that is working in that team's favor. So again, when you talk about Group C and D, day number 2 of the PMCO wildcard, it is looking absolutely ludicrous where these teams from Group C and D, I mean, that ends up happening so many times as well. When you talk about day 1, it is a bit of a, well, low-key start certainly, but on the other tangent, when it comes down to day 2, the other teams already know what to anticipate and what their target is based on the first day's groups being played, games played. And again, with that, these teams that are playing today have got their target set up, and they are just absolutely, from the first game onwards itself, obliterating whatever opportunity they are a part of. SCL and VS find themselves on, of course, that 9th spot with 29 points. So from the looks of it, it is going to be perhaps a few of these teams actually that will be moving on to the first page itself. With the way that these teams are playing from Group C and D, they could very well find themselves in the top 8 by the end of the day.
Exactly, they can actually talk about SCL and VS. They are also on a very good position to actually contest with the top 8 with 29 total points, with certain teams after the end of game 2. RF Officials also, that green marker that we get to see above their name, that certainly shows that yes, this is a team that really made that leap in that upper position, and because of that, 2 match 20 total point is where they're standing, and they really have a good chance to first go close from 9 to 16, and then they try to maybe go towards where they actually want to. But at the end of the day, it is just the 2 games left for the day. The coming Sanhok and obviously the last game Erangel obviously will be the last chance for today's, because there are more and more matches left for the day, because at the end of the day, it is going to be the 12 matches in this stage, at this stage, that each and every team will be playing.
Absolutely. We've got Sanhok coming up, after which of course will be Erangel, but for now it is going to be the team that is going to be finding themselves on these 31st and 32nd position. That's Face of Death, and the team that is Godfathers. Not looking too good. I mean, 2 games played, only 1 placement point for the side of TGF. Absolutely not the kind of play that is expected off of them. Nepal Esports also trying their level best, have been able to get 2 kills, but 2 placement points is all they've been able to accumulate. So again, the final page, there's a lot that can be expected from them because the difference in terms of the points is not that much, but it's easier said than done because these teams are trying their level best, but when you've got the teams like Reaper X, NVS, they are going to make things difficult for the likes, and eventually they are going to have to, like the side of TGF and whatnot, they're going to have to make a stride to stick to what they know for the best, and with that, hopefully they'll be able to do so in the next remaining games. But right now, we do reach, well, in a small little segment, we are going to go on a short little break, but after which, of course, we'll jump right in with game number 3.
Here we go now.
Hello and welcome to PUBG Mobile Club Open. This is the Wildcard Region 2021, and in that we are on day number 2. 2 games that are already done. Let's jump right into the arena of Sanhok and let's get match number 3 started off. With that, the flight path is going to be on our screens hopefully any minute now, because that's what I was told. Yes, there we go. And with that, it is the flight path that's on our screens, and it is going to be none other than the Miramar champions Reaper X taking the day into their charge, and it is going to be moving, the flight path itself is going to be moving from the northeastern front towards the western side, southwestern side of Tambang.
Exactly. Midway, we get to see Reaper just dropping down towards the area where they love to do. In the past, we have seen Reaper X going down to the area of South Paradise Resort, but this time it is going to be Boot Camp where they are contesting for the moment. It is also going to be the Legend Esports that is present in the same vicinity, and I guess it is going to be a treat for the viewers and also for me, as we can get to see a Paradise Resort fight. If it is so, I'll be really happy to see. I was really waiting to see if the fight is actually happening or not, and since that marker, the parachute has turned into red, complete red block spot, it is going to be the fight. It is going to be. I can already hear the gunfights coming in from the sides, and this means that yes, the fight is on. But no, it is going to be RF officials that is also in the same vicinity. That means 3 teams. Legend Esports, it is going to be Royal officials, and it is going to be the Reaper X. I mean, 3 teams in the same vicinity. This is not looking good for all these teams. With Panda OP having the DBS in his hand, he is certainly the king of the situation.
Well, Reaper X starting off with an amazing indeed performance where they have been able to get that first blood situation for themselves, and it is going to be Royal officials who are at the receiving end. But that's not the only cause, because it is going to be Smoko who will try and retaliate and bring that question in towards their team's favor indeed. And in doing that, it is going to be quite a massive turn of events where the Legends are going to be chiming in along as well. So there are going to be 3 teams that are part out of this arena. And in that, we've got Royal Officials, we've of course got the Legends, and along with that, Reaper X as well. So the Legends and Royal Officials find themselves in very close proximity, but it is going to be Royal Officials who are at the receiving end. Sad, of course it is, but this is what this team finds themselves in, and the Odin should have been able to spot that, and he most certainly will be able to and get that kill for himself. Will that kill be confirmed? We shall have to come back to that, but on the other tangent, it is looking like the Legends are absolutely trying to dominate against the players of course, RF Officials.
RF Officials just being impatient because the way the second last player actually stood off from that staircase, it was preempted that the players was taking from that TPP different advantage, and he really didn't get to see that. But Sai goes down, that means it's the last player surviving from the sides of Raw Official, and there we go, have in the screen. It is going to be the Royal Sun. Will the sun shine in this area of boot camp or not? Because it's already cloudy, as we get to see the hopes are looking pretty much daunting for them. But till now, it is going to be Reaper X that is just waiting for one team to get eliminated, because they already know that it is 3 teams in the same vicinity, in the same proximity, and maybe they're just strategizing, trying to engulf the player into his own way. But Royal Stratus, it seems that he is trying to take at least 1 kill, but before he takes him down, it seems that Panda OP again going down with a brilliant spray coming in from the sides of Vector, Royal Sun. And it is not looking good with Sun and Stratus surviving. It can be a good challenge, but now Reaper is charming in all of a sudden from the backhand side. It is going to be the Legend Esports that will be getting a lot of chance, a lot of breather at this moment, as they will now be trying to regroup and just trying to recalibrate the moment. The player will be getting the revival, and sad affairs for RF Officials straight off the bat. After eliminating one team, now Reaper X must have their eyes set upon the one team that is in the close vicinity, and that is going to be the Legend Esports. We have to still wait to see as 4 players charging onto the 4 players of Legend Esports, and most of the players don't even have the first hit, not even the bandages to heal themselves up. How are they going to take the fight on just 20 HP? This is a big question.
Well, this is not looking too good for the side of this entire site, because eventually the Legends and of course Reaper X, they still do have all 4 players alive, but Reaper X are the ones who are at the receiving end, and Carl was the one who absolutely with the micro Uzi was able to perfectly bring in that perfect burst damage. But this is where things are turning absolutely against the side of the Legends as well, because they have Carl being brought down to his knees. Odin as well as Panda OP are down to very less HP, and on the other tangent they've only got one person with good health. But onto the front of Reaper X, they are very much in control and in charge. They've got the utilities, they've got the perfect skill set, and they are the ones who are trying to absolutely dominate in this fight. Having not lost any of the players, the Legends are going to try and recuperate themselves and get those health kits and whatnot so that they can, bandages perhaps, to get themselves acclimated. But this fight is completely rushing from one side to the other.
Exactly. On the other hand side, it is going to be Entity Nepal Mogambo with M249 striking tier 10 at its best, and it is the moment where we head towards it seems that the observers have listened to us, and it's Entity Nepal where we have them on the screen, and the players are looking pretty much strong at this moment, with all the 4 players are still at the place, but we get to see 4 reds. 4 reds in their bars in the number. That means they're just surviving on 40, 20, maybe 10, maybe 20 HP, and that's what the storyline is for. But on the other hand side, it is going to be Vardhan, Sam OP, Exodia, and Bal with all complete full bars. Somewhere down the line they have 70 or 80 HP, but certainly down the line it is looking pitiable. It is not looking good, as we get to see the fights are happening in this one with Tampe with that Uzi in its hand can bring the knock. There are a lot of lethal weapon, the close range weapon. We get to see the DBS, but the fight is still on. Which team is going to be the one that will conquer this area of boot camp? We have to still wait for that.
Well, Reaper X certainly are in control of this fight. There's no two ways about it. But eventually, when it comes down to the placement itself, it seems like the placement that the Legends find themselves in is working for them for the moment, as Reaper X is having a hard time trying to shuffle them out. And for the moment, it is the Legends who have the better half of that situation. But for how long? Because Reaper X knows for a fact that there is a team right across the corner, and they are just slowly, steadily moving on along. And it is going to be this moment where Ixcel right here is going to be bringing that perfectly set up nade parade, and in doing that, he's going to be bringing down Panda OP once again. Odin is going to be able to walk away from that situation. Carl is right there to try and give that cover fire, but eventually when it comes down to the 4 players of Reaper X, it is not looking like an easy task. Oh, what a play that was from the side of Mr. Tanpei. He was able to absolutely dominate, but Reaper X's players were all in control. They pushed on along together, and in that result have been able to get 6 kills from this entire saga. What a dominating play has it turned out to be for Reaper X once again.
4 from the sides of the Legends, and obviously 2 from the last team. That for the first team that got eliminated, that was obviously of the Royal Official, and since it is not looking good for all these teams and early elimination, just imagine the Royal Officials got 2nd position in the last match, and how often have we seen a team just get too much over aggressive, or maybe that luck doesn't survive in their favor and factor, and that becomes one thing that is where they fall to, and taking a toll onto that, that was their demise. For the moment, it is a hybrid shift we get to see Blood, because these sort of circles we have seen a lot in these circles. Either they get towards on the western side of eastern side of boot camp, or on the southern side of Paradise Resort, and then tilt towards the area. But I would love to see the circles where it would go, because till now we have seen a lot of notorious gameplay from the circle itself, and it seems that maybe the team might be looking to go towards the same area as now. The teams are looking stronger at the moment. It is also going to the third eye that will be making a safe entry into the Camp Bravo Island, and there is no contestation ahead. And the best part for Entity Nepal is to either make a rotation, and the first entry they make, that would be obviously for the Lakavi, or else they would go straight into the circle. We have to still wait for that. But completely barren is where Camp Alpha we stand at the moment, because it has been completely left by other team. We have a lot of team in the area of Paradise Resort, but still in a settlement.
Well, that is certainly the cause, and we shall see what sort of a play the circle is going to be making. There we go. The circle is still going to be very comfortable, actually, for a lot of these teams. It's not going to be too very difficult to make that rotation, but in doing that, it is going to be VNG who find themselves pretty much in the center of the spot itself, and that is looking absolutely perfect for the side of Vengeance. But will they be able to absolutely bring that sort of Vengeance play into their favor? We shall have to wait and see. For the moment, we certainly are looking at 3 teams already being knocked, so an aggressive start from the lobby, and it is of course just a few minutes into the game where we did see quite a lot of fights take on. But right now, when it comes to expectation of those fights, well, it seems it is going to take a few more minutes to get into those such moments, because, well, the teams are making the rotation, as we can clearly see. Along with that, when it comes to the rotation itself, all of them are being so very synergistic that they are so not close to each other to even expect a retaliation against each other. But this is when FOD and T3, they are going to get very, very close towards the quarry region, and once T3 get into the quarry region itself, the third eye will probably be suffering. We shall see, because they are in the vehicles as what we saw, because they are in the vehicle, they're giving away the audio cues as well, and that's something that they could very well suffer from.
Exactly, that's kind of the case. And Cave is where obviously the players are aligning at this moment, with going slowly and steadily, and the drop is also coming in. Painan is where the Godfather stands at the moment, with all the 4 players just spread out approach. The team is not yet complete with all the loots, as we get to see. The teams are checking upon all these small huts, and we are getting to see the players are shifting from UMP to M416. But till now, we have seen a lot of UMPs coming into action, be it with the game of Erangel, Miramar of Sanhok. It's the UMP and the .45 ACP is where the player are certainly relying upon, and this has been certainly made because the change in meta, this has certainly been buffed UMP, and just because of that we are getting to see a lot of UMP action. But since the Kings of Father, obviously the players are not looking to take up those SMGs, they are looking to go for those ARs, and this is somewhere down the line where you have the preferences. Either you go for SMGs or you go for the AR. But at the end of the day, aim is what matters. If you connect your aim first before your enemy connects on your head, it is where you are winning the fight. In all these situations, it's going to be Vengeance that will now be facing the brunt of TGT.
Well, TGT is a team that was trying their level best to go Kali Titans, but eventually the Vengeance are the ones who are trying to bring in that onslaught to the players of TGT indeed, and in doing so, Vengeance have taken 1 knock. It is going to be TGT also taking 2 knocks for themselves, and in that, Vengeance get the better half of the fight, and before the fight even started, Vengeance have been able to absolutely decimate the competition and not losing any of their players. Of course, Ashish is down, but Bad Boy is right next door to be able to give that revival. So, perfect play again. I mean, you talk about the placement, Vengeance were absolutely in the perfect placement, and it comes down to that the skill is what was questioning, and the question has been answered that Vengeance do have that skill, and they are going to be retaining the comfort of that compound for the moment. On the other tangent, it is going to be the third eye that we move on down towards, as we were talking about it earlier during the map. rotations itself that we saw. Third Eye were also very close to the quarry and were looking absolutely comfortable as they hunkered themselves down onto the compound right next to the quarry. But now it is going to be a question of whether they can take this fight. They have been able to spot a few of the players from the side of Entity Nepal, but they are being pincered down in terms of the damage that is being brought on to the onslaught of course, this team. But for now, as the conversation moves on along, we've left with 12 teams in just 11.5 minutes of this game.
Indeed, it is just the 12 teams, and more often we get to see a Sanhok with the same pace start. But in yesterday's gameplay, it was Sanhok that really started off with the slow start. But this time, every fight has not been averted, rather been taken, as we got to see a boot camp contestation. So certainly, CND is the team that really play aggressively. If you have to just note down in one point is where we get to head towards the fight. But for the moment, it is going to be when VOD, the veterans of that pretty much closed where FOD, Face of Death, is actually positioned. So veterans of that Face of Death is actually preempting, this is actually persisting in the western side of Query. Which team will be getting the better half of it, because the deaths are prevailing all over this map.
Well, what a play this is turning out to be. Talk about late rotations. We are looking at a few teams making that late rotation down towards from the Painan region as well. But eventually, when the conversation is being brought on down towards the circle, it is looking pretty phenomenal for so many of these teams. As VOD make that rotation in the vehicles, they are giving away a lot of audio cues indeed, and it is going to be a tricky affair as they try and get away from Entity Nepal. Entity Nepal, as we did just see a few minutes ago, were looking very much in control of that compound and are now going to be out in the open to take on that fight, and they are going to be doing exactly that. And with that, my word being on point, Mahang is the man of the hour who has taken on that onslaught against the players of VOD, and VOD, well, they've given away a lot of the cues, and now it's going to be based on how well are they going to be able to retain this position.
As if you asked Entity Nepal just to charge out the players, and they have listened to you, and now they're trying to pincer down the veterans of death. But veterans of death are just being too passive in this moment and are just not taking the fight. The one thing that they are doing good for the moment is that they are not finding themselves in the open position. They are holding the fortified areas, and this is where somewhere down the line you need to position yourself down. It's okay that you are being peppered down, but you need to make sure that which is the team that is holding the good advantage, and that's where the cliff comes into play for Entity Nepal. And Mahang in the first game, also in the game of Erangel, he was the player from his side that brought the team close towards the chicken and got a lot of kills when he was needing the most. And at this point, he is the one that is leading the charge, because from the minimap, by the looks of it, it seems that all the players are from the different direction, and the players are playing in a split situation, completely trying to dominate the hill lock where they are standing at this moment, and they are looking pretty strong. I'll keep an eye over Entity Nepal throughout the course of this day, obviously for this game too, because for the moment they look pretty much comfortable. But on the other hand side, it is going to be Team Godfather that are now slowly and steadily moving into zone. It is going to be an easy task, as 26 meter to 5 meter they will be covering. And what I see from the looks of it, from the left hand side, it is going to be SCLNV, as the team that got chicken in the very first match is now pinning them down. The team SCLNV has really got an early defeat in the game of Miramar, but certainly when they have changed the map, it is the time when they are looking to change their fortune, and this is where they are looking strong. With the Feriwala, again, this was the man that got the MVP. He is on the charge. He needs to make sure that he doesn't get the better half from Goku, else it will be a tough affair for team again.
Godfather, I mean, yo is what I would say to this. You were just mentioning it, Ankit, and I was just thinking to myself as well, looking onto the minimap, that yeah, this is finally the moment where, of course, Godfathers are going to be able to get into the zone and will be absolutely comfortable as they try and get into the zone, as well as there was no team in the minimap around them. But behold comes SCL and VS, and they are now going to be bringing an onslaught to the players of the Godfather team. And the Godfather team is that team that was on towards that final page of the leaderboard, not looking too good, not looking good in terms of the points as well. And now they have been pincered down, all the players down, and this is absolutely where things can go against them. Again, when it comes down to SCL and VS as well, they are outside in the blue zone as well. They need to get into the zone, but it is going to be through the Godfather team. And as Feriwala tries again and again to pincer down the team, eventually he is going to be able to dominate, because his teammates are going to be able to get into the comfort of the zone, and as they do so, they have been able to get the attention of TGF. And now it is a conversation about the third party is being brought in. It is going to be none other than FOD, who have been resulting the face of death to the players of CLNVS, and the Godfather team also retaliating. A perfect spray and a perfect damage being brought on from the side of TGF. Beautiful turn of events, but now they need need to focus, because 600 meters, it was just 100 meters away a few minutes ago, but now it is 600 meters away that they need to travel to. And in that, Feriwala is still yet not done. NVS are trying to combine their efforts and just absolutely relentlessly take those points in their favor. As of now, NVS have only got 2 points for themselves, but of course we did see in the kill feed that it is going to be none other than Face of Death who have been able to relinquish the position that SCL and NVS were able to make based on the rotation.
Exactly. I mean, the man of the moment has predominantly been the Feriwala from the sides of SCL and NVS, but now it is when the time when a Face of Death also needs to make an entry into the zone and realize the situation. Now they have made a truce from this fight, but certainly Face of Death's mercy is not looking merciless as he's trying to spin down the player, but SCL's Feriwala again, whenever you say this player names, whenever you say his name, he is going to be the one that will be popping on your screen, and this is the time he is now retaliating onto the players and taking the vengeance that how dare he brought down 98. That last player, the first player that he just fallen down, eventually the last in the team card's name has gone down. But on to the other hand side, it is going to be Third Eye that is now punishing down the players of Entity Nepal, obviously. And I was talking about this team that I'll have my eyes look upon, but certainly the team is now looking in not a good situation. But for the moment, it's going to be Vengeance that is pretty much close to where Team Justice is positioned, with 0-4 losing from their side. This is going to be Sabo again and Rose 1 Blind 77th that will be taking the fight. But for how long, as the favoring of that altitude is getting in favor to Justice, but not onto the favors of Vengeance. If they need to make an entry zone, they have to be very much cautious and watchful, and if you're not, you will be taken down this way.
Absolutely, Ross1 just absolutely perfectly obliterating with the burst coming in. It is going to be Vengeance at the receiving end. I mean, they are going to have to be absolutely careful as they try and get into the zone. I mean, this is another conversation that they need to have synergistically to themselves as well. Do they really need to get into the zone through this area? They could very well fall back and make a different rotation altogether, because when it comes to the King of the Hill situation, it is going to be none other than Team Justice who have the better advantage for the moment, and this is also going to be favoring them based on the numbers advantage that is working for them. So eventually, Vengeance Esports, I mean, they are absolutely committed to this. They are absolutely going to try and bring this fight to themselves and try and get into the zone through this area, but will it be enough is what I'm asking. And this is something that, again, the team, well, they seem to be absolutely wanting to bring in that revenge apparently for themselves, and they are going to try and take that fight towards Team Justice. Or no, they will not. Absolutely not. They are going to try and get into the comfort of the zone, and that is a perfect play being showcased from the side of Vengeance indeed, as slowly and steadily they are keeping an eye on towards the players of not only Justice, but also we see Bad Boy right here, who has been able to catch Reaper X. So Vengeance are in a very interesting situation where one teammate is keeping an eye on towards Vengeance. On the other tangent is going to be another teammate keeping an eye on to Reaper X.
There are 5 teams brought on the western side. It is going to be Vengeance, it is going to be Team Justice, it is going to be Team Reaper X, and some more different teams in greys and reds that we talk about. Rohit has been spotted down, some leg shots have been made, some shots have been spotted down on the legs, and just because of that we get to see he has been brought down to not slither of HP, but still surviving with a good HP for the moment. And this was the moment to talking about veterans of that now realizing the fact that they need to make an entry zone. It is going to be just that 110 meter, but what a grenade onto the face of Death, and now they're facing that Raga is now being followed up with Molotov just in order to finish things off for him. But from the backhand side, it is going to be the Mercy that is not being spotted down. Yep, he has been spotted down, but will he be able to survive the situation? We have to wait for that, as now Gyara is looking pretty strong at this moment. Vengeance getting more and more kill onto the player of Justice. It is one team that is getting pincered down and getting sandwiched between both the teams, and that is going to be of Justice. But for the moment, it is Vengeance that is reigning supreme at this moment. But on the other side is going to be the Third Eye that are taking a toll on NE, and this is not looking good for them. Nepal Esports certainly going down, and not only going down, the complete team has been decimated as we move towards the 19th middle circle, and now the hell is going to be breaking loose as Vengeance Bad Boy has got a lot of shots onto his face as Rohit is still surviving, but for how long? Bad Boy will be taken down thanks to the play zone coming in into the play, and now Bad Boy will now run for his life. But in all this situation, he has lost most of his teammates as he will be surviving him for own.
All by himself, absolutely. And he was, I mean, again, before Bad Boy lost, he certainly did bring in a lot of damage to the players of Reaper indeed, and Reaper X have taken a lot of damage, but eventually we'll be able to get that revival. And as we move on into the zone itself, it is going to be Entity Nepal right here on our screens with the 2 players remaining. 8 kills to that team. What a perfect play this has turned out to be on Sanhok. TGF goes down again with 0 kills, but 9th spot. So they will be getting away with a little bit of placement point working in their favor. Face of Death also being bunkered down. We do have just 6 teams remaining. Vengeance Esports has finally been brought down. Rohit, the final player who's remaining, has been brought down to his knees, and it is going to be VOD that is absolutely decimating Reaper X's players one after the other. Finally, it is going to be Vardhan who is going to be faced with 3 players from the side of VOD, and eventually that is not going to be favoring Reaper X as well. So VOD onto a decent gameplay with 5 kills for themselves. It is going to be none other than Entity Nepal, who are looking absolutely ferocious, but the forecast says otherwise, because it is NPC based on perhaps the numbers advantage that NPC has been given the 35% forecast.
And also the compounds that they are holding for now, because you get a lot of huts that they are positioned for the moment, but they need to make sure that they, if they are in the fortified area, they just cannot afford to go this down, as now veterans of that are looking pretty strong at this moment. They are the veterans of that. They know how to craft these wins. They know how to craft the players and chuck out and put a big detrimental damage onto the face, as veterans of that now getting 1 and more kill into their favor. 3 kill is what NPC stands at this moment. The players are still knocked. They need the revival, but slowly and steadily it is going to be NPC's player that are coming to circle. But all of a sudden, do you realize that 2 players have been all of a sudden sent into the lobby? It is going to be just the 2 players that are surviving. Really not a good gameplay coming in. But on the other hand side, it is going to be the team that is sitting on the top. That is going to be VOD, veterans of that, getting a not in a compound, but certainly the hillock, the cliff that is favoring them, and certainly the edge of the circle. They need to make an entry into zone. That is going to be just the 1 or 2 meter. But Fury X NEPALZ, once they find themselves away from all these huts, it is going to be veterans of that will be raiding those deaths from that area.
Most certainly will be, because they are certainly bringing in a lot of ruckus into this, but in time they are going to have to leave the safety of that compound, and when they do so, they will be caught off guard. And on the other tangent, it is going to be VOD that have pushed on to the players of NPC, thus leaving NPC with just a 1-man army. That's going to be beast. So entire conversation from NPC, the forecast spoke otherwise, but VOD have moved in along, chimed in along, and taken the conversation away from NPC, and have resulted in bringing them down to just a 1-man army. So now it has turned into a 4v2v1 situation between these final 3 teams remaining. And of course, when it comes down to the fight that was taken on from the side of Fury, we already know that the team has given away the information based on the smoke itself. Of course, they will not be spotted, but of course, Bunny knows that that team is going to be making that rotation to get into the zone, and eventually that perfect blind spray has resulted in 1 player being knocked from the side of Fury indeed, thus leaving just 1 man remaining. So this has resulted in quite an onslaught that could have been brought from the side of NPC going against them, but Fury on VOD, it is absolutely a decimating play, because VOD are absolutely in control of each and every single fight right here.
There we go.
Resulting in a chicken dinner. There's no 2 ways about it. I mean, a 4-man army going to chime in to take on 1 player. There's no way that that can result in a different conversation. But enough said. VOD, veterans of death. The way they played this game, they were really massively controlling every single rotation that they made, and whatever team that they found in their vicinity, they were absolutely pincering them down. From Reaper's X to, of course, we saw NPC to so many other teams. With that, 11 kills is what Veterans of Death walked away with, 26 points, thus finding themselves in the overall 10th position.
Exactly, a very good game coming in. 11 kills is what they were able to secure. Not an easy task to do, and especially the game of Sanhok, where you get to see a lot of standard situations. It was 5 teams, not 5 people, it was 6. We get to see the replay, the Oppo, the moments, obviously. True. When we get to see the things that are coming in, but certainly it was not easy for them. 6 teams coming out from the situation. It was Reaper X that became the first bait for them, and then it was an easy affair for them. I mean, out of all the 5-6 teams, it was 1 team that emerged. I mean, if you have already fought hard in the early stage of the game, it becomes easy in the last half of the game, and that was what we get to see from the VOD. And obviously it was also a game for the green teams, the marker that you got to see, the NPC.
Absolutely. I mean, again, NPC, they had the compound working in their favor, they had the circle working in their favor, but the aggressive stance that VOD were just moving on along, the momentum that they had created, there was no stopping them. And of course, the way that push was made from the side of VOD, NPC stood no chance. With the utilities being on point, with the sprays being on point, it absolutely decimated NPC in a matter of seconds. Yeah. With that, I mean, an MVP play is what that showcased, but of course, an MVP is going to be a player and not a team, and it is going to be none other than Gara, who has been able to get 3 kills for himself, 754 damage, along with, of course, the 3 assists in the 22 minutes of gameplay that he was part of. Perfect play for the side of Gara.
I guess this was the guy you actually started talking about in the game of Miramar, and this time he has really claimed that title, that MVP title. Not easy to get, but certainly easy for all these players that are really making it happen. 3 kills, 754 damage, and 3 assists again. So one thing that I'm getting common in all these PMCOs, be it with the wildcards, be it the Bangladesh region, is that the assist is one thing that is really being favoring, and the teams, the players that are getting the MVP's ranking and that title, they are also assisting their other teammates, not just relying upon their own gun power, but also assisting other teammates.
Most certainly. So there's a formula to that. I mean, you've got 40% weightage going around towards the damage itself, and the damage being the forefront of it. It's not necessarily always the kills department that makes you the MVP, and that is something that, of course, these teams, well, certainly try and take on those fights, but this time around it was none other than Gara and, of course, his entirety of the team that took on those fights to perfection to complete them to a perfect chicken dinner.
Exactly, and just because of that, we get to see the overall match ranking where Slipknot, I mean, this was the guy that created the flank angle for veterans of that. You remember Bad Bunny from the left-hand side with other 2 baits, what taking the fight. But Slipknot at the reliance situation from the right-hand side, I mean, eventually at the end of the day, it's not just the kill that actually justifies the performance, that justifies the outstanding performance that any player does. It was Slipknot that from the right-hand side eventually gets the highest kill at the end of the game. But before that happened, it was other teammates that was having a huge number of kills into the number, but he got a lot of infos as they were getting the favor of the hills, and then it was an easy affair for them charging into the same small hut. And talking about these things, it is going to be veterans of that, but we got to see 11 kills, 15 placement points, 26 total points, and okay.
Find themselves on the 10th spot of the overall ranking. So, of course, worked out perfectly for Veterans of Death. But eventually, talk about Entity Nepal, another team that was showcased a little bit during the gameplay itself, where they did walk away with 8 kills for themselves. So, again, a perfect turn of events. But TGF, ouch moments once again for the team of Godfather. This time around, they walked on 9th position, I think, is when they left the game, and thus they've got that one.
And I guess they are on the 34th or 37th position overall.
Exactly.
Again, not a good game, but RF official, I mean, Raw official was a team that got obviously close to where they could have got the chicken, but not in the game of Miramar, and then an early elimination. I mean, you have to be consistent. And talking about consistency, there we go. We have the overall ranking post-match 7. Paradox and PUBG Minion still at the position because they're not playing the game, but Entity Nepal have suddenly overcasted the shadow over Reaper X, getting 46 total points of to this time and 43 for Reaper X, and this time it is going to be Third Eye that is looking pretty strong at this moment with the 3 total matches, 40 total points. The difference is not still much, as we get to see, because one match still left. Is there going to be one more team from Group C and D that is on the second half of the chart? And yes, there we have veterans of that. Maybe it can be their time. It is also a time where Fury X, NEPALZ, or maybe SLS, NV3, all 3 of teams are competent enough and have the caliber to find themselves in the top 8, or maybe 2, or maybe all 3.
Most certainly,
because the difference is not so much.
Exactly, because it's just so very close. Right here on the 9th to the 12th position itself, we can clearly see 35, 34, 33, 32. So it's just that 1 point difference from one position to the other, and that is something that all these teams have been capable of, from SCL and VS's play to Fury X's absolutely destructive domination to VOD's absolute perfect chicken dinner. Nothing stopping them but themselves. But we shall see if the Erangel, the final game, will favor them to be a part of that top spot or not, top first page or not. But moving on to the third page of the overall ranking is where we shall of course see the other teams that are part of Group C and D, where there are a few of them, like for example NPC, Vengeance Esports, RF Officials, who are trying their level best most certainly, but the consistency is something that's walking away from them. You know, for certain moments, Vengeance Esports, I mean, were looking absolutely destructive and dominating, with one player, Bad Blood, was the one who was taking on players of Reaper X, and eventually his teammate Rohit was another tangent or taken on a fight by himself. Should have had a bit more synergy in terms of that rotation, but again, I mean, there is time to showcase that sort of a play. There is time to bring a little bit of that change in terms of the gameplay itself, as we find these teams on the final page of the leaderboard. This is where the biggest change is required.
Exactly, and especially for Godfathers. I mean, the team Godfathers, the name is Godfathers. They should have actually created their own fate. They should have made their own fate, but 32 is where they're standing, and not red we want to see, because it's the last position. It's the only green that they can actually have, and there are a lot of opportunities left. If they even get 14 points in this next match, or maybe 10, right off the bat, straight off, they will be jumping towards the top of that fourth half of the chart where they are not looking good at this moment. But certainly some teams really need to buckle up their seatbelts and tie up their shoes and have to be on their toes, as we got to see in the game of Erangel, the way it was for the team of SCL, and maybe this one more Erangel can be there.
Hopefully that'll be the case, because if not, then I will have to draw the line for that team and be like, well, 6th Sense was better than them.
Yeah.
Godfather, 6th Sense was better than you because they at least walked away with that 1 point every game, whereas Godfather has not been able to do that. But again, I mean, I'm just kidding, right? I'm just kidding. We shall see what the final game is going to be bringing for this team. But eventually, for the moment, we're going to go on a short little break. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Here we go now.
Hello and welcome to PUBG Mobile Club Open. This is the wildcard region that we are in, of course, and this is final game for day number 2. Let's just dive right in to the final game of Erangel and find out what these teams from Group C and D are going to be bringing to the table. We've had an incredible play and showcase of perfect skills, but now it is a conversation about the final page of the leaderboard teams. Teams like, of course, Godfather, teams that are not looking too good to showcase a different sort of a strategy and a result for themselves, because if not, then again, I mean, me and Ankit have been talking about this again and again. Every single game, these teams have to be able to showcase and dominate themselves, no matter if you work towards those placement points, no matter if you work towards those skill departments, or together combined effort towards both. But eventually, every single game is an opportunity. And if you end up losing that fight from the first day onwards itself, then the all-out war is going to be lost on you.
Exactly. I mean, you need to be on their toes, as certain teams have been, and in the past we have seen in the last games of yesterday, it was obviously the PUBG Minions and also a lot of teams that were looking strong, Paradox, but certainly Group C and D have taken a lot of fight if we just talk about that, because the average, if we just calculate it, there is a lot of teams from Group C and D that are looking strong at this moment, but certainly the Godfather need to really maneuver their movement, maneuver the way they are trying to do so. An Eastern dominated fight path that we get to see, but right off the bat, it is going to Team Justice. They're facing the brunt of Fear 10, as one player has already been taken down, and all these fights are happening in the area of Milta, where Fear 10 is just charging upon them, losing on Zero with the Zero approach. It seems that Team Justice may be just faltering down at the moment. The player are spotted down, and this is not the way you take the TPP, because you should have known actually that the wall is just not enough if you are in the animation of that of the grenade pool, your head will be quite visible, and just because of that, he was pulled on, and this brings down to just the 2 players surviving that we can get to see in the minimap are completely not miles apart, but miles apart in terms of the fight that they are taking.
Most certainly are. There's no two ways about it. I mean, Fear 10 most certainly creating a lot of fear into the Justice department of this Justice team. And eventually, when it comes down to the gameplay itself, Justice find themselves, sadly, with just the 2-man remaining. We can clearly see on our screens that Roswan is one man who is trying to get away from this entire precarious situation that this team found themselves in against the players of Fear. Eventually, based on Hades' health, we also do know for a fact that Justice tried their level best to take this onslaught against them, but for the moment has certainly not been able to result in a fight for themselves, because, well, damage is one thing, but a kill is another, and that kill has certainly gone on to in favor of Fear 10, where they are sitting at 2 kills confirmed for themselves. Talking about the circle, once again, we do have the military base that is going to be completed by the circle, along with which the circle is going to be moving on down towards the eastern front, and Farm being the center, Milta being the center, is going to allow so many of these teams to get themselves into some position. And I do want to see a bridge sort of a circle being the final front where these teams are going to be caught off guard. But for the moment, of course, when it comes down to the rotations itself, the teams are still getting themselves in a comfortable spot. Vengeance we see going on down towards Saverni. We can clearly see that not NE, which is going to be Nepal Esports, going on down towards the northern Georgia pole, absolutely in comfortable spot is what they will find themselves, because this is just the first few minutes itself, and this is when the teams are going to try and get all the loot that they possibly can in their comfortable spots. But in contestation, there is no other team apart from, of course, the teams that we just saw, that was Fear 10 going on against the players of Team Justice. And for now, Team Justice's Sabo as well as Roswan are comfortable, are alive, but for how long? Because on the other tangent, it is going to be Royal and TGF who are taking another fight onto another angle.
Exactly, not looking good for TGF if the player has gone down from their side. But the looks of it, it seems that it is going to be Royal Official that has again faced the brunt of the situation, and Stratus going down. This is certainly not in a position where the status quo is maintained at this position, and the fight is actually going on. And this has been the course of the day, Blood. If to be honest, I have to say all the 3 games have been right off a start, where we're getting to see a lot of fights, maybe for those drop contestation, if we just saw in the game of Bootcamp. In the game of Erangel also, there was a lot of contestation. Eventually, it was then a settlement for the next 10 minutes, but the fight was there. In this game also, since the players have played the last 3 games, and they now look more composed. 1 game of Erangel has been done. There was no other reason than being intentional and then try to contest your drop location. Just because of that, we got to see in the area of Milta, the players have actually gone down, and it is seeming that this time it is going to be Godfather, that they are trying to rise from the ashes, and they really need to do so, because it is the ups and downs that creates and gets into life. But you need to fight all the odds, and fighting all the odds, they are the tough team, because at the end of the day, all the 32 teams have the potential and have the caliber, and just because of that, they are here in this club open, this wildcard region. They just need to find themselves in a good spot. If the day is not actually there, just work on the placement points. Maybe you need those luck factor somewhere down the line. Certain days it doesn't go in your favor, but it's not all what you can rely upon.
Absolutely.
It's the skills that you need to maneuver some days, but for the moment, it is going to be one more fight that is erupting, and the fight is just not stopping. Milta has become the deathbed for this moment.
Well, it seems like Justice have finally found justice indeed, as they have taken down Fear 10's Hades. So interesting turn of events right there, where it seems like Justice have taken a fight against the players of Fear 10 and eventually have been able to retaliate and again create a little bit of a ruckus for the side of Fear 10, as Fear 10 perhaps seem to have been caught off guard, because they decided or thought that maybe Justice is too scared. But that's certainly not the case, where we do see Sabo and Roswan are the ones who are still alive and have been able to, well, slowly and steadily retaliate against that positioning of Fear 10. But right next to them is going to be TGF as well. And TGF, as we were just looking at it, Team Godfather have also taken a good fight for themselves against the players of Royal Officials. So 1 point certainly confirmed for TGF. So it certainly can be expected that as the game progresses on along, TGF will hopefully be able to get a lot more points. Fingers crossed.
But there are a lot of T's. If we're talking about T's, we have TGT. Obviously, the Gurkhali Titans, the Clash of Titans is what I expect for them. But in the last 3 matches, they did have faltered down. In the game of Erangel, the curve wall that was thrown to them, they really succumbed to the pressure. It was Tilak that fought his heart out. He was the brave heart for this situation and for his teammates. But as soon as they head towards the area of farm, downtown or maybe towards the Milta, they need to make sure, because there are already more teams, and slowly and steadily it is also going to be the aggressive team, the team that doesn't shy away from taking the fight. I'm talking about, it is going to be veterans of that is finding themselves in the closer proximity, and they are rotating parallelly, and it seems that they must have gotten those audio cues, and since they are getting more and close, it seems that now they are looking to take up the fight with Tilak and AJ finding themselves in sort of maybe in compound or holding those ridges. It is looking that shelter, those ridges can come into the play, but from the backhand side it is also going to be the entity Nepal that may backstab them, and a lot of team have to also join in the frame. We talk about Vengeance, they will be slowly and steadily coming in from that northern side of Severdi, but all of a sudden it is going to be Reaper X that are now punishing down the players of the third eye. Exactly, and this is somewhere down the line where Bal has also gone down. That means a commotion that has been created, a skirmish that has been found out, and is trying to maneuver down the same area. Vardhan getting that grenade pinned down. If this grenade connects, this can be really detrimental for Team Third. And yes, it will be, as one player will go down from the sides of Team Third, and Vardhan finishing things off with Team Third, and Sauron going one more player down. Certainly a moment where Reaper X can pounce upon onto the players of Team Third, and this is not looking good for them.
Oh
Exactly.
yes, that is so very true indeed, and in doing so it has resulted in Reaper X getting some really good perfect sprays on themselves and have been able to hunker down 3 kills. A beautiful turnover win for Reaper X. Once again, this team chiming in along with quite an aggressive stance that they've been able to create game after game, just absolutely punishing whatever team goes up against them, and in that leaving only one man. That's going to be the Third Eye's Trapstar. Trapstar, Nate, you better be well equipped or else you should fall back, and that's exactly the latter is what he's going to decide to do. And that is going to be so very crucial for him, because after all, if it's not the fight, it is certainly the placement points that can favor him, and that is only going to be working if he remains alive for long. On the other tangent, a fight that started off in the first few minutes itself is still continuing on, where it is going to be Justice who try and take on the players of Fear 10, and in that, alongside, it is going to be also on the other tangent of the map, Entity Nepal taking on players of SCL Envious. What a massive play this is turning out to be. FOD is what the observers have chosen to showcase us, but I would love to see what exactly is going on with the Envious, because Envious were onto the receiving end for quite a longer time, and Sabo right here has found the perfect spot. I mean, that is a very neat spot to try and get yourself in cover, but again, it is a defensive spot. There's no way he's going to be able to aggress against that, and if at all a Molotov or a nade is brought on towards that small little area, it is going to be game over for the dude.
But now it is Vengeance that are now pushing upon to the players of NTT Nepal compound, where they're standing at the moment. It's going to be Rohit that has a scar and trying to take the 1-1 fight. He has that 6x. Better you try to just equip Red Dot onto that, because in that close situation, that close of it's not going to be 6 that are helping you. But certainly Mahang coming in from the backhand side takes one player down from the sides of Vengeance, and Rohit that was aggressing, that was creating the flank angle, that was leading the charge, I should rather say, has certainly gone down. And since the captain has gone down from their side that was leading the charge, the rest of the 3 players will be now facing the heat and front as it is going to be Hang with one more knock. I mean, this guy is just no stopping in all these situations, and marking the fact that he's just left with one player in the same vicinity, another player joined into the same fray slowly and steadily. The confidence with which he is holding, I mean, cocktail, it is just so easy for them, and all of a sudden Vengeance has to retreat from this side and has to disappear, I would say, and a very well defended fort from getting breached.
Well, Entity Nepal, I mean, this team has been consistent. Say what you must, but this team has been so very consistent since game 1 itself. Of course, this is a team that find themselves on the first page of the leaderboard, looking very, very comfortable indeed. But eventually, when it comes down to the positioning itself, now they're trying to absolutely get themselves on the top placement itself. And as close to the top is what they're possibly going to be working towards on the other tangent as we move on down towards Reaper X. This team, this time around, seems like Sam OP has decided to get a little bit of a bridge camp situation working in his favor. And that is something that VOD are going to find the hard way from the looks of it. But again, I mean, VOD's players are slowly and steadily certainly making that rotation. But as they do so, not looking good. It's going to go down, and VOD are left with 3 players alive as they try, even if they try and get that survival, that revival is not going to be easy.
It is certainly going to be. And from the backhand side, we can get to see VOD are also getting the shots, or maybe from the backhand side, or from that maroon marker that we can getting to see in the minimap. That means from the backhand side, it is in a split situation where Reaper X player are positioned. The 2 players have come in where Sam OP will be getting a lot of assistance, but he is now getting from different flank angles, and all of a sudden it is going all berserk out of this nowhere of Noibre. Certainly one player will be taken down. Gara goes down with the player bleeding out. Slowly and steadily, it is going to be just the 2 players surviving. Not only 2, it is just 1 because it's a complete red marker and that will be given the revival for sure. Certainly, it is going to be an overpowered game. I mean, Sam OP, he is the real OP. He is the OG, I should say.
Absolutely is, absolutely is. I mean, what a play this dude has been able to create. And along with that, when it comes down to those plays that he's been able to create, each and every single time, he's so on point. And that is what has resulted in him bringing down 3 players already from the side of VOD. And now it is going to be Reaper X's Bal doing what? But come on, Bal, you gotta be doing better, mate. You gotta be doing better. I mean, that's a push, yes, but you just jumped out of the. That's just too much excitement, is what that is.
Adrenaline is one thing that really hunts down, do you think, and then you need to actually control you. But for the moment, Bal will be getting the revival for sure because he has that players on the backhand side, and certainly that McLaren should have helped him. But for the moment, it is going to be Fury X NEPALZ. That is also bridge camping region, and this is going to be the time where NPC is onto the backfoot side. Sandeep is certainly onto the lower side of this bridge, and he is getting cover of it. Beast is on the upper side, and the players are not looking good at this moment as some buckies are in the water. That means he already knows, since he has already gotten 1 more knock, he will be hungry to take 1 more and more. And since we haven't gotten to see the map itself, I would love to see if the observers are listening to us. Oh dear, my friend, please show us the map.
Well, talking about the map itself, VOD certainly find themselves not in the map because they are 700, well, they are on the map, but they're not in the comfort of the zone itself because they were 700 meters away, and with that, they will be sent back into the lobby. And in that Justice, this team that seemed absolutely not able to do anything in the first few minutes of the game, finding themselves in fights after fights, are taking moments for themselves, and it is going to be none other than Entity Nepal that they have tried to bring and hunker down. But eventually, in that conversation, Entity Nepal is a very skilled team as well, so they'll be able to give 1 more knock to the players of Justice eventually.
How long has this fight actually extended? I mean, right off the go, we have seen a lot of fights happening in the situation. It was Team Justice that was spinning down another team in this favor, and this time it is going to be Hang that needs to find himself away from the situation, and slowly and steadily it's going to be Sabo that first need to give the revival, and then 780 meter. And as I said, that bet is what Milta has been for the most of the situation. And now since we have this map, the map is on its way, and we have a lot of things to talk about. The rotation from Vengeance, talk about this. They can be actually made great, but if TGF is only decides to do that, on the other hand side, it is going to be THE. Obviously, the Legend Esports sitting in the Deathmatch Center, they don't have a lot of compound, but obviously the chance to get close and close, because survival is where they can stand at the moment. Sabo getting not still very well done. He is pinning down the player, and Cocktail, it seems that his vehicle has been burned down, and Spray that was looking magnificently strong, and finally Sabo, the X Factor from the Team Justice team, will be getting the revival done. And before that, he will be using all those crates and finding all those meds and those bullets that he is lagging with. But for the moment, it is going to be Rose 1 that will be bleeding things off. But I mean, he really found himself in a position where he didn't decide to go for that revival, but that certainly was a big decision. I would guess that even if that knock wouldn't have been the case, 1 kill is certainly you don't want on the loss of 1 player, because you don't have 10 players, you just have 4.
Exactly.
And already losing 3 players, you should have given the revival.
I kind of believe in the way that Team Justice took that fight again, because they decided that there's no way that that revival could help them, and eventually the kill will certainly be helping them, and the point at least could be confirmed, and that is something that I would absolutely want to recommend. Commend the players of Justice team, because they did not want to accept defeat.
But then it's just the third
right?
zone. Maybe the revival could have been the case. I mean, but still, I mean, that is questionable from my side. But still, the players in the battlefield, I mean, you may agree to disagree. That's the
absolutely.
point.
I mean, some are martyrs and some are not.
Okay, for the moment, it's going to be the obviously Legend Esports that are sitting in the Deathmatch Center with the NE. That is going to be Nepal Esports making a closing from the eastern side. And also, it is going to be a Fury NEPALZ that is slowly and steadily making an entry in zone. So now Fury X NEPALZ was at one team that really impressed me in the game of Erangel. Now, since this is the game of Erangel, I mean, a lot of teams that did falter down on these off maps really have a good chance. But Gurkhali Titans, it is not looking good for them. I mean, they are again being pinned down. Ace has gone down, and Choco is getting a lot of shots. Their misery is just not ending. As now it is going to be Reaper X, a big Goliath, a big Titan is now challenging them.
They most certainly are, and doing so perfectly as well. I mean, we know that when it comes down to Reaper X, the synergy is so on point, the communication is so on point, and that can be clearly showcased from the mini-map itself, where they were trying to create a flank angle, but sadly, that seems to have kind of backfired. But eventually, again, when it comes down to the play style itself, Reaper X certainly know what they're doing, And on the other tangent, we can just hope that TGT are well equipped. They're trying to basically stop the Reaper X get into the zone, but that is easier said than done because the Gurkhalis, they are not as on point as again when it comes down to Reaper X's plays, but eventually again nothing taken away from the Gurkhali Titans gameplay because this team slowly and steadily has been moving on along when it comes down to one game after the other and are walking away with points. As of now, they have no kills in this game, but now they are, well, sadly being brought down as well.
You cannot show the back. This is the rule 101. The first rule, you cannot show the back. If you show the back, you will be getting the bullets pumped on it just because of that the players are going down slowly and steadily. With Reaper X getting 6 kills already, I mean, they again are looking pretty strong at the moment. They have the vehicles, they have the kills, they have the numbers advantage, they have the split, and they also have that IQ coming in because they know if Sam OP goes to get the kill finished, maybe some other team, maybe some other player might be there in order to take him down, and Playzone takes one more player from the sides of the Godfather. So, I mean, this is not looking also good for them, but AJ will be bleeding things off, and Reaper X doesn't aggress to finish him off, rather decides to go for rotation. I mean, this team is really toned with aggression and then with the rotation that we talk about, and Gurkhali Titans Choco is duly noting all these rotations for the moment, but Sam OP, since he has different directions, it is going to be a Herculean task for AJ to get the revival done, but since he is on the different side of the dip, he has a great chance to give the revival done, and yes, it will be done in the case, but once it is done, it is going to be again Reaper X that they need to face off.
Well, they most certainly could, or they could try and go on to their separate way itself and work towards those placing points, because we still have 11 teams remaining, and in that doing so, we are down to 18 minutes of this game. FuriX is on our screens right now, where FuriX are trying to take on the players of course, Face of Death, and Face of Death, being none the wiser, are of course utilizing all the smokes and the utilities that they possibly can, but FuriX has a better advantage because they have the cover at least working for them, and that is something with the information that they've been able to collect could be the X factor that FuriX could be able to convert for themselves. But on the other tangent, it is NPC also chiming in along with the third party situation against the placement of FuriX, which could absolutely favor Face of Death.
Definitely, it's a perfect gatekeeper situation. If you are watching to this scenarios, it is where we are getting to see the perfect gatekeeper situation, and Triggs gets one more knock, Lupu Sir, and it is a grenade that was coming in, but was certainly dodged by that buggy that was standing right in front of him, but he has fallen down. That means he has also been finished with that multiple grenade, but for a certain moment, it is going to be Ego that will be pinning down the player from sides of Face of Death. But what a spray coming in from sides of Gara, as he was exactly spotted on the players where he was positioned for the moment, and NEPALZ Aldari is from different direction, holding different direction, and I guess he's the last player surviving from his sides. Either he goes for the revival or he needs to take up the fight. That is all up to him, as till now we have seen some players, even if the revival is the case, they don't really go for that. Players love to take the fight, and that's what they make it out of the situation. Reaper X on to the other hand side, they are taking the fight. 6 kill is what they stand for the moment, and for the last 5 minutes or so, they are just positioning themselves slowly and steadily, with Face of Death getting 5 kills already onto the name. It is gonna be a tough situation for most of the teammates, as now they're going to make an entry, but the green marker team, that is going to be of NPC. 2 kills is what they have standing for the moment. Sam OP comes all of a sudden and reduces one more player, and there we go. Gurkhali Titans again, one more backlash they are facing for the moment, but then it is the Legends Esports that are facing the brunt of Nepal Esports. The player are making a charge in, but they need to make sure that it is going to be the Legend Esports. They know how to take the fight, and they are certainly going down slowly and steadily. With 3 players going down, everything is deciding upon Jerry God, where he has brought down one knock successfully onto Carl. Will he be able to secure one more kill? Yeah, he will be able to do so, but it is going to be a Herculean task where the 3 players needs a revival and 2 players revival. But there we go. It is a domination mode where Tampe comes in. 4 kills already onto the way, and it is going to be a complete squad wipeout for Nepal Esports. More and more kills are being acclimated onto the player, but in all these, mind you, Blotter, 9 kill is where Reaper X standing, and numbers advantage, zone advantage. Again, this is one game that can go into the favor.
This most certainly can. There's nothing stopping Reaper X to be able to dominate, because that's the only team in the lobby that has all 4 players alive, and along with that, the number of kills that this team has been able to accumulate. 9 kills already, are you kidding me? But in that, it is Third Eye who seems to be jumping into the arena against the players of Reaper X and are trying to give in that backfire advantage. And will that be able to favor them? We shall have to see, because it is going to be SLS Envious who have now moved on against the players of Third Eye's position. It is Trapstar who has been brought down to very little HP, and it is SCL Envious who are so very close indeed. And ReaperX, of course, are also going to be very close to that arena. And in that, as SCL tried to make a push, it seems like 98 has already naded himself. Not the kind of play that was anticipated from SCL NVS, but eventually that is what the case has been. And now, of course, thankfully, he will be able to get that revival for himself. These are the only two players remaining for the side of SCL NVS. They've been able to collect only one kill thus far, so a lot that can be anticipated from the side of this team, but eventually will they be allowed to do so? They are outside the zone. They do need to get into the zone itself, and again, when it comes down to ReaperX itself, ReaperX knows exactly what to anticipate.
Exactly. Trapstar is completely trapped in the position where the SCL NVS completely in that same position where Feriwala is again going on the charge with the SCL NVS 98 still surviving situation. It is going to be tough affair, 1v2 situation, and from the backhand side, it is him also getting a lot of shot. If this grid connected into the same small window, it is going to be not an easy task for him, as it's not acceptable completely from my side, and also this position is not looking good for them, and with this, they are getting completely eliminated, but still, it is going to be ReaperX Sam OP again on the charge with Vardhan and Bal and Sam OP. The team is completely looking strong at this moment. They are in the sublime form that we get to see, and talking about that, Vardhan, there we go, one knock onto the face of Vengeance, and Vengeance, they are now facing the backlash. The resurrection is on, as it is going to be Legend Esports 3-pin also strong. They really do have a very good chance, but they really need to play the cards well. They really need to play the cards well, and before that happens, it is going to be ReaperX that out in the open. They are going for the rotation. They have spotted on the players where the players are hiding in the smoke cloud, but they need to make sure that they are taking down onto the other hand side. It is Stampe that have completely pinned down SCL NVS players, and Feriwala, it seems that he has not gone down, but 98 has gone down.
Well, this is not the kind of play that was anticipated, but eventually we're left with just 6 teams remaining right here. The Legends are looking pretty comfortable with the 6 kills that they've been able to accumulate, and as they try and retaliate against the push coming in from the side of SCL NVS, we saw just a couple of minutes ago, eventually it is the circle that we need to talk about. ReaperX certainly find themselves in the comfort of the zone. Eventually there are a few teams who are outside the zone and are being hunkered down, but will ReaperX or FuryX be allowing them to get into the comfort of the zone itself is what the conversation goes down to. Of course, from the side of Fury right now, they have been able to get 3 kills, but it is only Adar who is left all by himself. And we come back to the conversation that I was just having, where the Legends are trying to stop the rotation coming in from the side of SCL NVS, and Feriwala is the man who finds themselves outside in the blue zone, not looking too good, not going to be able to confirm that kill for himself, but will certainly not give away the kill as well. With that, SCL NVS go back into the lobby with 6, well, on the 6th position with only 1 kill for themselves. We're left with 5 teams remaining, and as I say that, we've got 4 teams remaining, because it is going to be a conversation between, well, Fury's 1 player. That is also not looking too good, because it is going to be ReaperX Sam OP once again jumping into the arena and going to try and take on that onslaught and that fight against that final player, thus resulting in just 3 teams surviving. I mean, ReaperX, what a play.
Ripping apart.
What a play they are doing. But talk about TGF. I mean, finally, the Godfathers have risen. Finally, in the final game, the Godfathers have absolutely decimated my conversation in the pre-game segment and are now going to be absolutely hunkering down to get those placement points. I mean, GG play for TGF.
The gods are listening to you certainly this time, and again it is going to be the TGF for this one last time in this today's gameplay, but because there are still more game left, but this was the momentum that we talk about, and certainly 10 point is what that will be walking away from this match. They still have an opportunity to take down more and more players, to take down more and more, not only players, and getting close to the 15 points, but this is not going to be an easy task, as now the Legend Esports are making an entry into the zone, but certainly the zone is favoring the purples, and the purples are the Legend of Esports, and trust me, the Legend Esports have done a really fantastic job, because a moment back it was SLS and Vegas that they eliminated them, and it was Feriwala that was in a position where he was pressed down not to make an entry, and then before that it was Nepali Esports that was making a slam in, and that was completely being decimated, and annihilation is what we got to see, but certainly it is going to be ReaperX Bal that is moving out in the open, and this Bal's rotation is certainly paying things off, and as moment he hit that compound, he will be taken down for sure, as now the vehicle has run over Goku from the sides of TGF, so certainly 2 simultaneously fight is where ReaperX are taking things into favor, but from the left hand side, it is going to be the 1 player that is coming in, and that is going to be the Vardhan. Everything responds and resides onto him, but still, it is going to be the 1 player that is still surviving from the sides of TGF, and we have still wait for that, how the fight as well happening. But Tampe is making sure that the fight doesn't end here.
Most certainly, he will not want that fight to end. And again, in that conversation, it was Sam OP that was brought on down, thanks to, of course, TGF, and that rotation that was made from the side of Reaper X to get into the zone itself has been hunkered down and stopped from the side of TGF. And there's going to be none other than Basme who was able to bring that kill against Sam OP. And now he is bringing down the final player of the Reaper as well. What a play, what a perfect play this is turning out to be in favor of course, TGF. But now, with all of that, it is going to be a connotation against Reaper X because the final team has spoken. It is going to be moving on along to take that chicken away from Reaper X, and it is none other than
Legends, the Legends Esports, the men in purple actually getting the chicken. 11 kill, 1403 damage, 26 total points. I told you, brother, the way they were actually taking the fight, it was easy to them. And once the God favored them in the last zone, the zone was actually in the favor. And Reaper X just getting too much aggressive because they should have used the smokes. They should have created a smoke cloud, and then they should have actually progressed where they actually wanted to do so. In all these situations, it was the Godfather that actually spoiled the party. That last spray reigning supreme in this fight. It was also the Godfathers, but one kill that was a cheeky gameplay coming in, and it was all end for them as the Legend got the favor, as both of us were wearing the purples, I guess. Maybe.
Again, I mean, you talk about the Legend play, you talk about the God's play. It was just absolutely perfect turn of events, and that is what is required as well, right? I mean, we always keep talking about one good game. Well, this is what one good game can actually do, and that is something that will be showcased when we move on down towards the overall ranking itself for specially TGF. And in that doing so, they have walked away with decent number of points. But along with that, again, I mean, Reaper X did not get the chicken dinner, but certainly made away with a lot of kills. I think 11 kills, right, that they got. So
and the 12 placement points too.
So yes, so that again, I mean, absolutely perfectly works in these teams' favor. But in all of this doing, let's of course move on along with the schedule and have a look at the MVP of this game.
Exactly. The title goes down towards obviously the Vardhan, the team, the player that actually was taking the fight whenever we got to see. It was him. This time the assist is not the case. The numbers is not so much that we got to see in the early stage of the game, but certainly the damage and the kills, and that's why he is there apart from other team and other players. Healing done 133. A good game coming in for Reaper X and also other teammates as Sam OP also joins him, and not only him, it is gonna be Exodia also coming in, and a very good competition coming in, and it was a complete exodus from where they were making an entry. They eliminated each and every team from where they were making an entry. Then it was all down to the 3 players surviving from the Legends Esports, 2 from the sides of the Godfather, 1 was knocked down by the ran over Goku, and then I guess it was just the split. Had that been a complete strategized one push onto the players where compounds where the Legends Esports were holding, things could have really turned different, but certainly this was not the case as the players were trying to play in the push. And this is where we talk about, just imagine if the push, the 2-2 split, that could have gone to the favor. Then we would have, whoa, what a brilliant push, what an awesome one, and what a mesmeric gameplay coming in. And that's what the randomness of the game comes in. And there is the game match ramp summary where Vardhan, highest damage 826, Exodia, most utility used, Panda OP getting maximum assist of 5.
Well, in that, let's move on to, of course, the match rank in itself, where we shall see what sort of placement points have these teams, along with the kill department, gone away with. And it is going to be the Legends Esports walking away with, of course, that chicken dinner. 26 total points is what they got with 11 kills. Reaper X, the same number of kills is what they got for the second position with 23 points. And from that, we move on down towards TGF. 4 kills, 10 placement points, 14 total points is what this team got. So amazing turn of events for the side of TGF. Absolutely. I mean, they were on the final page of the overall ranking, and now look at them. Reigning supreme.
I guess maybe from 9 to 16 is where they must be standing at this point, because there was not much of point difference between them and the team that was on the bottom. And since they have got a lot of point in this match, 14, and this is going to be helping their cause. Khali Titans again faltering down out of officials, getting close toward the chicken in the second game of the day in the game of Miramar. Still faltering down and missing out the mark in the last 2 matches. Certainly not looking good. Veterans of this team actually got the chicken. in this last match, and how often, I mean, multiple gazillion times we have said, and we have witnessed, not only said, a team getting chicken in the last match gets eliminated at the very early spot, and it was a moment where veterans of that, they were caught in the open, trying to make a rotation from that bridges, if you remember, and then it was not easy for them. And with that, we head towards the overall ranking, where it is looking good for Reaper X after the game end of total 4 matches. It is where A, B, C and D have equal slates, have equal opportunities, and then it is still Paradox OCE from Group A and B. What we saw in yesterday's gameplay, reigning supreme, 30-78 total points, 66 is where Reaper X comes in, and then we get to see a drop. So the void is filled between them and PUBG Minion with Reaper X placement points.
Absolutely, and as we move on towards the second page of this overall, we do see the perfect spot that was showcased from these teams and the legendary play that has resulted in the Legends Esports chiming in along on the 12th position with 34 points. Again, I mean, when it comes to the second page, one good game, and there can be a lot of changes on this page as well, because Team Ronak, that is sitting on the 17th spot, have 24 points compared to the 24th position holders, that is going to be RF Officials, with 20 points. So 24 to 20, well, that really is one good game. 4 kills is all you need to be able to accumulate.
Not even a complete game. Not
even a complete game,
4 kills or maybe 5 kills, because
True.
the point difference is just not much, not even much. I mean, just the 0.4 point difference, 20, then 21, 22, 24, and in that, it is going to be 8 teams that are finding themselves. So an easy thing to talk about, but not an easy thing to do in that and achieve in that battleground. But with that, we head towards the last ranking, where Godfather has certainly made an upward push. I really expected them to be in the third half of the chart from obviously before 24th position, from 17 to 24, but certainly this was not the case, as they really need more and more points. 16 is where they're standing, and before this, I guess it was 2 or maybe 3 total points that they shared at the end of the 3 matches, and because of that, they are on the 4th position, 4th half of the chart.
Absolutely, under 26 spot. So a decent good jump from 32nd to 26th position, and hopefully if they continue to play like that, they can find themselves on the 3rd and hopefully onto the 2nd page as well of the overall ranking. But move on that conversation towards the kill leaders coming in for the day. It is going to be quite an interesting affair, where we did see some annihilating plays being showcased from the side of Reaper X. But amazing turn of events is what this has been for the entirety of day number 2 between Group C and D. I mean, that much more of an aggressive play is what these teams have showcased, and that has resulted in, of course, 5 teams from Group C and D jumping into the top 8 of the overall standing. So amazing turn of events. Now it'll be conversation for Group A and B to have as to what sort of a gameplay are they going to be bringing, and that happens, as I discussed earlier, every single time. Day number 1 is always a bit on a slow low-key start, and then the objective is created, and then the next teams that jump in always have that objective that they want to be able to come up against and try and get as close as they possibly can. With that, an amazing turn of events is what this has been. But sadly, we do reach the end of our stream for the day. We are going to be chiming in along with you tomorrow, but until then, take care. Bye-bye.
Here we go now. 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 Here we go now.